Okay,
good.
great.
We're ready.
Okay. All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the August 26, 2021 Historic Preservation Meeting of Montclair, New Jersey. This is a remote meeting using Cisco WebEx. It's open to the public and will be televised on TV 34 and Montclair Government YouTube. Public participate in the meeting via computer or phone. To participate via computer, please access the Cisco WebEx event at the meeting code, which is you can access through the township website. To participate by phone, please call 1-408-418-9388 and enter the meeting code 179-049-3410. So, as I mentioned before, this is a regular meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. And as I mentioned, it's being broadcast live on channel 34 Montclair TV and on the local government website. So, Janice, would you please do the honors of the roll call?
Yes, Chair Bennett.
Present.
Vice Chair Heineman is excused. Mr. Rooney.
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum. Miss Kane Levy.
She's on vacation. She didn't.
Okay.
Did she let you know that? Oh, she let me know that. She's so.
Okay. Mr. Reimnitz.
Here.
And Mr. Graham.
Acting secretary, our assistant secretary, and also Mr. Karasik is here as our attorney, and Tom Conley is here.
Yes.
Okay, our historic preservation. So, has everyone had a chance? Are there any additions or corrections to it? Additions or corrections?
No.
I would ask somebody to make a motion to accept the minutes.
I move to accept the minutes.
And second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so our minutes are accepted. Next order of business is public comment. But before I go into public comment, we just learned today that application, let me get the number. Application 2021-38, 205 Glenridge Avenue, Esquire Construction LLC, which is locally known as St. Paul's Church. They've been asked to carry this, their application to our September meeting. So we will not be listening to any testimony tonight on that application. So anyone who's here for that and don't want to stay for the meeting, go off and have a good time tonight. Next order of business is public comment. Janice, do you see anybody on the phone line that wish to speak?
Well, let me find out. Okay, members of the public, I have unmuted you. If anybody has public comment prior to any of the applications on the agenda, now's the time to speak. And hearing nothing, hearing no comments, I don't think we have any public comment.
Okay, thank you, Janice. So we'll close the public comment session of the meeting. Committee reports. We've been we've been very busy this past month. Yes. We've had revisions committee has met on three different applications. And maybe John, could you speak just a little bit about what the application for Depot Square and then 82 Bay Street, which we met yesterday?
You're
John, I think you're on mute.
Yes, Depot Square, they came back and showed us updated drawings, simplified enclosure that they're adding on to that existing 3-story building, and making improvements. So I think we had a good meeting with them. We'll see what they come back with. We're going to see them again tonight, I guess, huh?
No, yes.
Yes.
Yes, and then we went to look at the old firehouse on Bloomfield Avenue. I don't know the address there. What was the address?
That's the veterans. The
Yeah,
veterans. Building.
yeah. We met with them and we got inside the building. I got down into the basement, which was lots of fun, and it's in pretty sad shape. In fact, well, whatever, it's in really bad shape down there. And we made some suggestions to them. You know, they're proposing to tear down the entire building because they don't think it's salvageable. But there's a lot of historic pieces there that I think can be salvaged. So we made some suggestions and some suggestions on maybe what they might come back as an outline for the front facade of what they're proposing. So I thought that was a good meeting as well. And then the other one was Glenridge, right? Glenridge Avenue.
82
Oh,
Bay
no.
Street.
What was that?
The Bay Street. We talked
Bay
about
Street. Yeah, Bay Street. And each time we see that, they keep making more improvements on it. And again, we had they didn't. The meeting was just Janice, Kathleen, and myself. So all we did was review the most recent drawings that they presented, and we made some comments, and we'll see what happens. That's it. That's all I have. You're muted, Kathleen.
Janice, their next stop is at the planning board, correct? 82 Bay Street?
No, they've been approved. They got
Oh.
approved. So this was a condition of their approval from the Board of Adjustment that they get approval from the revisions committee of the HPC materials.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was a very successful meeting and we thank them for working with us, which was great.
Mr. Greenbaum has joined us.
Oh, hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, David.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next committee is community outreach, and we are currently working on 2 grants. One is for the residential guidelines supplement to the design guidelines. We're working with the consultant on that. We have a deadline of September 30th. So Steve and I have been conversing and conferring about that. And then the estate section, the historic survey estate section, that also has a deadline of September 30th. So the final draft is being worked on, and we've had a couple of meetings with the consultant and the state. And as you remember, they presented their findings last month, but this all now has to be packaged into a document, and that's the final one is what we're working on. Minor applications met yesterday, and being that Caroline, who's also part of this committee, was not available because she's on vacation, I just want to report that we met on 4 applications, 17 Church Street, 51 Upper Montclair Plaza, 330 Bloomfield Avenue, and 602 Valley Road. And Janice already put together the paperwork. Thank you, Janice. I didn't get a chance to get back to you, but everything seems in order. So I'll call you tomorrow. Are you in tomorrow?
I will be in tomorrow. Yep.
Okay, so there's just a couple of things that needed to be tweaked, but other than that, as you can see, we've been really busy. So
Yeah.
and I think at this point, what I would like to, I'd actually like to form a new committee, if you don't mind, and I hope we get people to volunteer. With the number of demolitions that are coming up, we're looking at things that can be considered demolition by neglect. And I think this is something that we really should look at more closely, and maybe come up with a list of things that are in town if we're able to do that. I know that Caroline is interested in looking at this, and I think it's a way to really focus on some of the things that are happening, that are about to happen. And you know, people, when they ask, well, this thing has been falling down forever, why weren't you able to do it? So I think we have to look a little bit more closely at what the mechanism is to address it. So is there anyone that would like to volunteer to be on that? Demolition by neglect? Okay, so I know Caroline is on it. So I'll report back next month and let you know what our findings are.
Okay.
So with that, is there anybody else have any other committee reports? Steve, if you've got anything from your committee?
I'm just here.
What's that?
I'm just here on HPC. I don't have any other committee reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I get it. Any other committee report? I guess any other? No? All right. So then moving along, we are going to move along to Planning Board Application 2744, 6 Depot Square LLC. This is a site plan approval and parking relief for outdoor dining area and reconfigured parking lot. This is in the Walnut Street Potential Historic Resource Area. And we asked them to come back, and they have redone their design. So Janice, do you have people here that are going to speak to this application?
Hold on. Okay, who's here for the 6 Depot Square?
This is Brandon Warshofsky, architect, present.
Okay, Mr. Warshofsky, I'm going to make you a panelist. Oh, everybody else. I did it again. I made everybody panelists. I don't know how I did that, but I'm going to have to go back and make everybody an attendee except for Mr. Warshofsky. Is there anybody else with you, Mr. Warshofsky? Or is it just you?
There may be a representative from ownership.
All right.
I am Thafer Hanini.
Who? What's your name?
Thafer. That's T-H-A. F as in Frank. E-R.
Yeah.
Last name is H-A-N-I-N-I.
I see him up there.
Why don't I see you on the list here? I don't see. Okay, well, I'll work that out. Oh, all right.
Is that what we have? Two people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just, when they swear, there's witnesses, do you guys both swear? In other words, you'll swear an oath. Okay, could you raise your right hands, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give the commissioners the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Yes.
And that's Mr. Hamini and Mr. Warshofsky, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so welcome, gentlemen. I know that you have new plans, new designs that you are going to show to us tonight. And as soon as Janice pulls them up, maybe you could start to describe.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for having us back this evening. We've taken some of the comments that we received on the design from our last presentation. We've reworked that design to incorporate those comments. And as it was already discussed, we met with the review subcommittee and had a very productive meeting. And we're happy to present now this updated design. We have reduced the amount of paved area to try to minimize the disturbance on the lot. So we are less than 250 square feet additional impervious surface by adding an additional green space in the rear of the building and we've reconfigured the parking based on some of the comments that we received, as well as reworking the exterior pergola, exterior seating area, and covering.
Mr. Warshawski, is there a page in the that you want me to display in the revised plans? A sheet?
Sure. So you can start on the site plan quickly. If you go to sheet number 3, T02.
Oh, T02. Okay.
We've revised to create additional green space. We've kept a lot of the existing plants that create a buffer with the existing neighbor, the building to the right on Depot Square. Since there are some mature grown in shade producing plants, and then reconfigured the parking next to that and incorporated a space for a trash pathway from a redesigned trash enclosure, which is revised to be built out of wood to follow the design requirements. We've detailed out the perimeter planter condition, but that would be
this area here along the edge of your pergola.
Yes. So along the edge of the pergola, on the border for the sidewalk area on Depot Square and on Walnut Street, that would be a concrete planter with a board formed face. So it would have kind of that wood grain appearance on the outside in a surface texture with plantings in the middle, so that would create a green buffer between the seating area and the public sidewalk.
Do you have a rendering of the revised plans here?
And then, yes, we have a rendering. If you want to go to sheet number 8, it is drawing A0.1.
Did I just pass it? Here we go. This is it.
Yes, and then in the bottom right of the sheet, you can zoom in.
Here. Bottom right here. All right.
Yeah, we have a couple of renderings of the proposed.
I see you have an elevation there. Let me get over to the rendering. Okay, here, and here, and here. All right.
Yeah, so the rendering on the top left shows that concrete finish look with continuous plantings in that perimeter wall. That turns a corner from Depot Square onto Walnut Street and terminates at the building where we also revised the storefront based on the comments that we received.
You eliminated the arcade?
We eliminated the arcade. We wanted to simplify it, make it a little more consistent with the surrounding. We actually drew some inspiration from the Walnut Street station right across the way and some of the detail of the old iron piers. So we accent that in some of the little brackets on the pergola to kind of carry that same architectural language into the building.
So where's the entrance to the restaurant? I know you have the entrance to the cafes in the front of the building.
Mm-hmm. Sure. The entrance to the restaurant is from the Depot Square side. So yes, so you can see it in that bottom right rendering. Also on the axonometric on the left side where you're pointing, and the elevation at the top left of the window right now.
So this will be the sign on top of the pergola?
Yes, and we're proposing a sign on top of the pergola, still trying to minimize the profile of the pergola, but create that wayfinding to draw people to the entrance.
Okay. That's this here.
Correct. So
Okay.
a freestanding mounted on top of the horizontal of the pergola, and it would be externally illuminated. Wouldn't be glowing letters. Would have lights cast on it.
Do you have the size of the letters?
I believe on the second to last sheet, A201, 2.1.
Okay.
And we call out the letters to be 11 inches tall with illumination from below.
I went too far.
Back by one. Yes, right there. The Six Depot restaurant.
Oops, too far. Yeah. I see.
And do you have any current photos of the facade on Walnut Street? I know you've done some work on that facade and exposed the, I don't know how much you've exposed.
Yeah, we went back based on the comments and we exposed a whole bunch of it. We updated the photos. If you go back to that sheet A 0.1, page number 8. And we discovered these cast iron colonnettes that existed behind the stuccoed finish. So if you go to the bottom left of the sheet, there are two images at the bottom. The image on the right side shows that little cast iron colonnette and the masonry that was behind that stucco. And you see on both sides of that image the infill of the former openings from that Walnut Street facing facade. So our new proposed storefront is following the openings that we uncovered.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments before we ask the commissioners for questions?
No, we certainly appreciate the process. And certainly we hope that the design is improved from it, and we welcome your comments.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for working with us. I think it's much improved, but let's have our commissioners ask questions. John, do you have any questions for the applicant, architect?
No, I don't. What? Well, maybe one. What is did you say the base of the planter was a wood face?
It'll be a board formed face, so
it's concrete.
A concrete material.
Concrete that has and that carries on underneath the windows of the existing building.
We're going to transition to a stone for the locations under the building, so that'll be a detail matching some of the existing. One of the comments we received, I think, we're looking to do that in a bluestone material.
You mean this area here will be bluestone, the base?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's my question. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve?
The roof on the pergola is stationary, right?
The pergola, the angled portion of the pergola is a retracting.
It is retracting. Okay.
Yes.
I don't think let's see, is there a closer detail of from Depot Square? You've got like semi-arches going on there?
Not really arches. That's that cast iron detail that we picked up from across the way at Walnut Street. So they're like a curved bracket.
Curved bracket, that's what I'm looking, yeah.
You mean this area here?
Yes,
What you're talking about? The curved brackets here
right.
for the pergola.
Maybe
Yeah,
like,
and it shows it, I guess it's, Brandon, it's over here too, right?
Yes, so it shows it there in the axonometric or the elevation if you pan up, or if you zoom in on one of those renderings, you might see it a little clearer.
Mhm.
Oh, here. Yes, I see. This is even better. Right.
Could you also explain to me what a top hung folding glass frame? How does that work?
Sure, like a nano wall type of thing, without a bottom track, just because it's impossible to keep clean. So it's like a folding window wall system. So it will create one unobstructed opening.
Oh, it's going sideways.
Yes.
I'd visualize it going up.
Ooh. Big fancy garage door. No, just a couple of panels, a bifold window
Okay.
wall system.
All right.
And those flank the entrance door, correct?
And those flank the entrance door. Yes.
Okay, any more questions, Mr. Rooney? Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any
Yes,
questions?
I'd like to understand the material for the pergola. Did you say it's aluminum like tube stock, or is it like a solid iron stock? What are you using?
The pergola material, it's an aluminum finish. The color that we're proposing is called charcoal. I know it does it no justice, but a sample of it, basically an anodized aluminum.
So it's kind of like a tube stock that it's hollow.
It has a structure inside. It's aluminum clad. It's designed for wind uplift, for everything that it needs to be thought for.
Okay. You talked about you called them the colonnettes and the facade of the building, and that you revised your design so that the penetrations are in line with the colonnettes that you discovered. How are the colonnettes, as you call them, or pilasters, how are they utilized in the facade? Do they actually project out? Or are they flush with the wall? How is that?
They're just proud of the masonry. They're mostly embedded, but they create more or less one plane.
Will they be visually clearly delineated in the facade design?
Yes. So the facade is broken into distinct areas based on the locations of those colonnettes.
Okay.
And that continues from the windows and the signage bands above.
Okay. And did you consider, first of all, what is the exact height? You might have said it already, the height of the concrete planter running along the corner. What is the height from the ground?
Looks like it's 24 inches.
Is about 24 inches, yes.
Okay. And did you consider, instead of, I understand you're saying you're doing a cast concrete using wood forms so that you get the imprint of the wood grain. I'm guessing that's what you're describing?
Yes.
Did you consider perhaps any other surfacing, perhaps like a stone?
We pulled away from a lot of the stone based on our last presentation. So that's we wanted to be consistent with kind of some more masonry materials, uncovering the brick, kind of keeping with away from what we presented previously.
I'm not sure.
Which was all stone.
Okay. And then is the concrete going to be finished or being left in its natural tone?
It'd be properly sealed, but you mean tinted?
Yeah, would there be any pigmentation, color? Anything that would, other than just a concrete color?
The intent is a concrete color.
Okay. Okay. I guess I just want to make sure I understand where the passageway was immediately flush with the wall, where you had that original arch that was, it evoked a lot of response last time.
Yes.
Can you just kind of, I'm trying to zoom in. So basically the height of that First of all, you changed the circulation. Wasn't there originally an entrance there?
There was originally an entrance there. Yes, we closed that off to make that just continuous to the building. It's still structurally the same, that we're proposing a fixed section of canopy there. And then the movable portion begins a few feet away. And maybe the rendering on those 4 renderings, the bottom left.
I'm trying to
You
figure
don't
out.
seem to have an elevation of the pergola from Walnut Street, do you?
I don't, yeah, I'm having trouble.
Let's
That's
go
my one.
to the second to last sheet again, A2.1. We have the full Walnut Street rendered elevation.
A 2.1. There we go. This is what this will help. Okay, you see, here it is, right?
So that entry, that circulation has been closed off, so the focus will now be on Depot Square rather than entering from Walnut Street, entering the pergola area.
Correct.
You will be able to access, of course, from the interior out into the pergola from the Walnut Street entrance. You would walk into the interior.
The restaurant space is exclusively accessed from Depot Square.
This is the restaurant here.
There, and then there's a cafe space that is distinct and separate. That's accessed from Walnut Street.
And that's
Wait,
entry.
Yeah, I'm trying to read that. I don't know why I can't. Can you scroll down a little bit, Janice? Where it says existing? There. So wait, what am I looking, what facade am I looking at here? The one where you have the 4 bay windows and the center door.
This is the Depot Square elevation with the pergola shown only in the horizontal. So
Got it.
a section cut, if you would.
I see. So the restaurant would be the structure on the right, and there'd be another tenant on the left side.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, that wasn't clear. Okay, that's helpful. I guess that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Graham, do you have any questions?
Just a couple. Could you just clarify the lighting a little bit? It looks like there'll be new lighting added to the wall under the pergola. Is there going to be any lighting required closer to Depot Square? I know the sign's going to be illuminated, but will there be any under the pergola?
There'll be lighting under the pergola. We're showing the building lighting specifically here. That will be illuminating the facade, and then the pergola has integral lighting strips.
Oh, it does. Okay.
That follow the structure.
And
Okay.
you have these 2 pole lights here, right?
And then there are pole lights in order to illuminate the parking area.
What's
Yeah,
the
right.
height?
That doesn't affect the pergola, right? That's only for the parking.
Only for the parking area.
And what's the height of those poles?
We're calling for them to be 15 feet, and they would be with a specific cutoff pattern.
I think our maximum permitted is 12 feet. I'll have to double check,
Okay.
but I think you have to reduce the height.
That would not be a problem. And with a specific cutoff to make sure that there's no light spill off of the property line.
The lighting strips, are they what are they, like track lighting? What do they look like?
They're like a they're recessed like a continuous kind of lighting strip. Not
recessed in the
little
poles that for the retractable pergola. Is that okay? I see.
Exactly.
And just another question about the landscaping. Was that done in conjunction with anyone in town to get the native plants? Their big movement in town to do that. Was anybody consulted about what landscaping would be used?
We did not consult with anyone specifically from the town. We kind of took the lead from the species that we're keeping, those mature screening plants on that right property line, and continue that around to continue that screening in the rear.
The planning board's going to require native planting.
Right.
Just to give you a heads up. I haven't had a chance to review this and submit a report, so but just to give you a heads up. I'll put that in my report before it goes to the planning board.
Okay. I think that
Those were my only questions.
absolutely.
And I have a couple of questions. The lighting, Janice, if you could scroll up for the lighting right, the Depot, 6 Depot Square. Are those freestanding letters or is that on a signboard? I can't, freestanding lettering sign.
Freestanding lettering sign. So that's on the horizontal of the edge of the pergola, that we would be lighting those kind of from underneath externally, and that's part of a wayfinding strategy to identify the entrance on Depot Square for the restaurant.
And what are they made of? Is it a metal?
We're showing it in a metal. It would probably be some kind of a solid material since it doesn't have any internal electronics, but a finished and resilient looking finish.
And your lighting strip, is that an LED lighting strip?
It would be LED.
Oh, so that's a strip that's right under the
Underneath,
letter.
kind of casting upward to illuminate just the letters.
Okay, and then I have a question about the bulkhead. The use of bluestone. Are you using bluestone for the bulkhead on the facade of Walnut Street? And does it also wrap around under the, next to the building? Is it consistent all the way around? That facade and also the facade under the awning?
You mean under here?
Oh, no, it's not there. I thought I saw it in another, okay.
From the exterior, once it goes beyond the edge of the building, it'll transition to that board formed concrete material.
Right.
But the datum, the horizontal, is going to line up between the bluestone at the bulkhead and the concrete at the patio.
So the bluestone will only be used in this facade, not anything under the awning?
Correct.
Okay, I thought I saw something on the other drawing. And that bluestone, I know there's variations with Chinese bluestone, a native, the variations, it can be very, very blue, it could be very gray. So I'm just trying to see the overall, how it meshes with the that brick that you've got on that. All right, those are my questions. Does anyone have any other questions before we open it up for questions from the public? Okay, Janice, could you see if there are any questions from the public comment?
Okay, members of the public, I unmuted you. Does anybody have a question regarding this application?
You want to eat?
Is there somebody there who has a question? Miss Mundra?
No, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to be muting everybody again. All right.
No. Okay. So okay, maybe we can then move on to our consultants' comments. Mr. Conley?
Janice, could we look at the front elevation? Because most of my comments deal with the front elevation of the building.
Which sheet do you want? Is this it? Is what you want?
Yeah, that one, actually, that's pretty good. Yeah. Maybe just enlarge that a little bit. My first comment had to do with the existing brick piers that are flanking the building on either side. There are existing, it looks like limestone blocks that are coursed between the brick every 2 feet or so, that are not shown in the drawing. And I think those are important to show because they would help define a horizontal line. If you compare this drawing to the historic photograph, they're clearly visible. And the bulkhead seems to align with one of those, maybe the second block up from grade. So that might adjust some of the things. And it looks like on this drawing that you have the piers drawn at different widths. The pier on the right is equal to the one on the left in actuality. I did visit the site twice, actually. I don't know why they're drawn that way, not being the same.
I mean, this pier and this pier.
Yeah, that pier and both of them are exactly the same as
Yeah.
far as width goes. I don't know why they appear to be different widths.
That's
And
a good note. That's a drafting error. If you follow on the left side from the second and third floor portion, I think that should be the actual line, the vertical that it follows.
no, it's off a little bit. I think the one on the right is closer to what it should be, but
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? When I guess you had a photo. Do you have a photograph of this? There are limestone bands that break up the pier at different intervals, and there's a really big one at the top.
Is that the beginning?
Yeah, I don't know if there are photographs or not. After they did the selective demolition.
Oh, it's not here?
We may not have one of the edge.
Maybe if you could zoom in on one of those, you might be able to see it. Actually, the one in the top right would be good.
I don't, I mean.
Oh, that's before. Yeah, that was before we did the demolition. Yeah, no, forget it.
Okay.
All right. And then my second comment had to do the piers do seem to be somewhat deteriorated, mainly towards the bottom, and they should be repaired to match the existing, either through a Dutchman repair or composite patching.
Absolutely. I think we can make that happen.
And also the piers, if we look at the elevation again, they run all the way to grade. You have them, I guess you're covering the piers over with new material, which I don't know how that's going to work. They won't be in the same plane if you're adding material over top of the brick piers, right? The piers on either end should run all the way to grade, which they currently do.
So
Right.
you mean
You have bluestone. It looks like the bluestone is covering the piers.
Oh. I see what you mean.
Okay. Absolutely. We can revise that. That's
And same thing on the top. I had a comment, I forget which one. I forget which comment, but the sign band should not lap over the piers. It currently stops at the piers, which I think, right, it's separate from the cornice above. Right, you have
here?
Yeah, basically the same comment of that.
I understand.
Right, everything should stop at the pier, not lap over top of the pier.
right. I understand.
Yep. And the material about for the bulkhead, maybe the height and the material should be reconsidered based on inserting those limestone bands in the piers. It's basically the same material that you have rendered in gray, it looks like, below the sills of the windows.
Sorry.
Right? It's
I mean, this
same
area,
material.
limestone here?
Yeah, the limestone bands are basically the sills of the windows and continue across the
Right.
facade, right? It's the same banding on the piers. Yeah, and I think you should do maybe a detailed drawing of the existing cornice. When you removed some of that material, it exposed some old brackets and a dental course, and that should be restored. And before you do that, you should document what's there, and there's probably a pattern as to where those cornice brackets were. They
Here?
may have been just at the two end piers, not the upper one, the lower one, the one above the sign band.
Oh, here, this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand.
So there are two existing brackets to the left of the bay. So those should be restored, and there's some nice dental molding there as well. And I think that was most of my comments. The last one had to do with the just confirming that all your new signage conforms with the township's current sign ordinance.
Right. And I appreciate that comment, and I do believe that we're seeking a waiver for the Depot Square signage.
Yeah, that will require a variance. But
variance.
I did have one other comment. My comment, number 3, there is an existing bluestone sills that are still in place below the storefront windows. The center bay where the doors are, that's been infilled with concrete to line up with the sills on either side of the door. And I believe that was done to kind of get rid of the slope storefront, right? The storefront is recessed, and there was probably a slope floor from the face of the building up to where the doors are. And that's been infilled with concrete, so that should be removed, right? And the bluestone sills should remain.
Right.
Yeah, they're nice pieces of bluestone.
Absolutely, and that will give us good direction for anything that needs to be added in bluestone in terms of the shade and the variation.
Right.
So could you just, what is the new bluestones on, could you just tell us what that is? Where it would be?
Once the work is done, you know, we're gonna probably need to patch and repair and make good and make watertight. So if there's anything that does need to be replaced, based on Mr. Connolly's comments, you know, we will strive to save everything that's there. And if there is anything that needs to be added, moved, or replaced, we would want to coordinate those colors.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So we'll start with comments from discussion amongst the commissioners. John Reimnitz, would you begin, please?
Sure. Quick comment about the strip lights. I would just make them a warm color light, not a
Sure.
4,000, 5,000 Kelvin kind of bright white light.
I
Keep
appreciate
it warm. Okay.
700 to 3.
The comment, in general, this has come a long way, and really I see you're really working hard to respond to us. In terms of this elevation we're looking at right now, I think indeed the 2 brick piers on either side with the you know, with the stone that's cast into the pier, they should come all the way down to the ground, and your bluestone base to the storefront should be in between all this stuff. And then I would stop, you know, if we're looking at this as being valuable historically, then I would stop the concrete planter like 3 inches before it hits that wall. So you're not casting concrete into the side wall of what's there, which we would consider historic material, I guess. So,
to keep a separation. Absolutely.
Yeah, just keep a separation. Yeah, so it turns the corner. It does turn the corner a little bit. Your elevation below doesn't really show the planter. Does it show going into the? No, it doesn't. It's not drawn there. And it doesn't show that indeed the pier probably comes around the corner. So just stop it short of that corner and you'll accomplish what I'm concerned about. On A01, A-0.1,
Whoops, went too far.
and the wrong page here.
I'm trying to get there.
It's the only elevation looking from Depot Square that shows.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. That's perfect. So the proposed Depot Square elevation. You've done this, you know, you've created this new entrance and new facade to bring people into the restaurant and defining that as a real sort of arrival place there. And I know that these little piers for the retractable awning system is laid out equally. I would tend to try to flank you know, your arrival so that you're flanking those doors in elevation. I think that would just look nicer. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
I
the post is somewhat obstructing the left.
Yeah, I
edge
would
of-
move that one to the left and then do one on the other side of the door to the right. And then you're not sort of, it's sort of an odd, I mean, when I look at it, I'm bothered by it visually. So I don't know about you, but they don't look like they go, it looks like the retractable system there's two really big bays of the retractable system, right? So
Correct.
these are just decorative. Those two are just decorative.
Okay, so you would add a post adjacent to the picture here, and it would frame the entrance.
Centered on the entrance. Yeah.
I understand. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Other than that, those are I'm not sure I understand the metal paneling. Is it a standing seam metal panel? Is it a flat panel with a reveal? What do you think? I mean, it doesn't, I'm not sure I have a strong opinion about it. I just don't understand maybe what it is.
Probably more of a flat panel with a reveal or a lapped panel than a standing seam, just because it's kind of in a area where people are moving about.
Okay. Well, I think the front storefront now being all open and glass and having the bulkhead and the bulkhead height relating to this planter you're tying this all together a lot, it's really come a long way. So thank you for that. I don't have any other comments.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, John. Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any comments?
I do. I also wish to echo both Kathleen and John's comments about how you've really worked very cooperatively and very thoughtfully to try to move this in a direction that is vastly improved from the first presentation. So thank you for that. I wish to also concur with John's suggestion about the post and the entrance to the on the Depot Square side, that there should be a sense of a procession and entrance. There should be a parallel post at the cutaway.
Sure.
So I think that was a great suggestion from John. One thought I had that might be helpful, and it's just an idea, but the corner where the planter meets the intersection of Depot Square and Walnut Street, you're basically having it at roughly a 90-degree angle. It's a sharp angle.
Yes.
And this is really kind of the threshold, the entrance, if you will, or the gateway into like the newly revitalized Walnut Street area. And it might be nice to do some kind of miter or some kind of curvature there that kind of embraces, rather than being at a 90-degree angle or a sharp angle, have some kind of angle or curvature to embrace and welcome kind of, as a greeting into the street. So I'm not looking to cut into your total square footage of your seating area, but it would be nice for you to kind of, embrace that kind of sense of threshold.
Absolutely.
I don't know how I can.
With that, we also have the corner post of the pergola, so it probably ends up being a little bit more of a chamfer than anything.
Yeah, a chamfer, something that just kind of greets.
Edge.
Yeah, it cuts the edge and just opens up the space, because it's really it's a threshold. I like a lot of things that you've done. I'll be honest with you, the renderings that I'm looking at, a lot of the presentation I'm looking at is really small. And so I'm really taking a leap of faith, as much as I'm counting on my colleagues who've gone to the site with the design review, revisions committee. So much seems to make sense and look great, but I have to admit that the renderings are quite small. So I'm taking a little bit of a leap of faith.
Did you get a copy of the plans?
Yeah. I'm looking at them.
They're bigger in print for sure, but they should hold up if you zoom in also.
I'm zooming. I've been zooming the whole time. Anyway, the bottom line is the bottom line is it's very positive. Let me see, which one are you showing me? That's a useful one. Yeah, I'm very pleased. I just want to add that again. Personally, I'm very pleased. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Graham.
Yeah, I really respect what you did here with the changes that you made. I think it really keeps in, it better keeps with the character of the neighborhood, the aesthetic of the neighborhood. And I think overall the improvements are very thoughtful and very well done. So.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I'd like to echo the comments of my colleagues. I think working together, you've really come up with a good look and a good vibe for this area. So thank you. And I think doing the investigation to the storefront, the facade on Walnut Street has really helped that look great. I think it'll be a vast improvement to the neighborhood. So
we certainly hope.
It sounds as though we're all in agreement with what you've done. I know there are some comments, and Janice, have you been writing? This is usually what we do with Graham, that he writes comments down for our recommendations that go beyond what we've looked at.
Okay, well, first of all, I would say I would reference everything in Tom Connolly's report without going through it verbatim. But Mr. Ryman's make sure that the strip lights underneath the pergola are a warm color light. Stop the concrete planter 3 inches before the building wall starts to maintain that separation. Flank the restaurant entrance from Depot Square with 2 posts that are centered on the restaurant entrance underneath the pergola. Soften the edge, the corner of the planter at the intersection of Walnut and Depot Square, perhaps mitering it to create a more welcoming appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, because a lot of it was in Mr. Connolly's report.
Yes. So, and then we usually ask that it comes that we look at the lighting fixtures on site when it comes back. The lighting and
materials, right?
Materials, correct.
And materials come back to the HPC Revisions Committee,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Was there at our first meeting, was there discussion of some kind of painting or mural or any kind of signage on the wall facing the Depot Square? I remember.
Yes, there was. And I think the applicant, the architect, I think you had no plan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that you had no plans at the present to include that.
That's correct. We don't have plans, but we agree it's an opportune canvas for a very welcoming mural to this neighborhood. And I believe the applicant would be willing to work with Montclair's mural committee or whoever is in charge of that to develop something interesting.
We do have a mural program that's run by the BID. Perhaps we can discuss expanding their program to include this property.
Yeah, it'd be great to do something because it's effectively a train stop location. You know, something that references Montclair.
Mm-hmm.
Some visual, something creative, of course, but something that has a reference to Montclair.
Yeah, the planning board's done that with another application, so we can see if you make that recommendation, and I'll add that to my list. That's something that they can certainly discuss it as part of their public hearing.
Yeah, so I would say if a mural is to be created on the eastern facing facade, or I guess it would be, it would be encouraged to do something that is celebratory towards Montclair, arriving in Montclair, and making reference to celebrating Montclair.
Sure, absolutely. When we do similar things in Newark, we strive to also find local artists that are willing to participate in it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mr. Wachowski. It's we look forward to seeing this coming to fruition.
Thank you all so much for all of the feedback. We're really
Okay.
part of this.
All right. Good night. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to new business. HPC application 2021-38-205 Glenridge Avenue. As I stated in the beginning, that's the applicant is asked to carry that to the next meeting, to the September meeting. Next is HPC application 2021-47 544 Bloomfield Avenue, Faubourg Restaurant. It's an application to install a new door in the front facade of the building. This building, the subject property is a two-story tan brick commercial building constructed circa 1948. It is located in the Town Center Historic District. It doesn't have any indication of what the category is, however. And the applicant proposes to remove an existing brass bank light deposit box from the exterior brick wall of the facade and install a new egress door faced with brick and the reinstalled night deposit box in the door. So there we go. Janice, is that the only plan? Do you have any pictures of this existing, or is that the only?
This is all I have.
Okay.
And I have Tom Reynolds on, who's the architect for this.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Reynolds.
Hello, all. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Back here.
So, Ira, would you do the honors, please?
Of course. Tom, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So it would really help if we had a picture of the existing.
Well, I can pull up the Google Earth picture.
Yeah.
Yes, that would you please?
Give me a moment. Bloomfield Avenue. Okay. Now, I got to move all these little boxes around on my computer to get to Faubourg. There. Okay.
And I'd just like to remind the commission that the applicant is asking for a certificate of appropriateness for this project.
Yeah, just can I give a little context while she's pulling up the map?
It's right there, right?
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so we, in sort of the work in trying to figure out this big glass roof project, we had an egress issue because that was classified as a building. And then there's actually a second one that popped up is originally there was an egress almost directly next to that, which during the start of COVID, a small barrier was placed, which makes that space no longer comply with being able to sort of egress out of that door. And so,
which is to the left, correct?
Yes.
And in the middle of all the windows, right?
Yeah.
It's over
Okay.
here. This
Yeah.
area.
So they, in outdoor seating for COVID, they placed a like a maitre d' stand there. There's a small wall they put there, and then sort of, even though sort of able-bodied people are able to walk out there quite easily, it does not meet the requirements of an egress area. And as such, we thought it'd be an interesting opportunity to add a secondary means of egress. And that location, sort of behind that bus sign there, is right where Janice's mouse is sort of the best place. There's nothing there. It's open. It sort of was dead space. But and we want to sort of the look of what you have there. So the we chose a contractor who's very meticulous, who's going to carefully open up that wall from the inside first to make sure we see if we're going to have any issues cutting the brick. and then work our way through and then have a custom door made. It's gonna be a metal door with a ledger on the bottom. We're gonna salvage as much of the brick as possible, and then put it onto that metal door and reuse it for the egress. And it's only gonna be for egress, so panic bar on the inside, but outside will typically be closed. And then because we I mean, I'll be honest, like the second I started this project, when we were doing the restaurant years ago, that night deposit box has always been interesting to me. So when we came to this part of it, we decided that it would be important to save at least the front panel of that, the night deposit door, the trim around that box, and so it looked like it was still inset into this door. The box itself on the inside, which is in the wall, will not be saved, but that front panel and that cover for it will. Yeah, and Janice will say, I'm looking for one more photo, but I have some of that facade and box that are a little clearer than Google Maps. This one might work. And I just emailed you 2 pictures to, so there will be a small reveal around the door just so it can operate. And we did see the memo. So one of the things we will do is before it's installed, first when we get our shop drawings back, we wanted to send that to all of you to sort of review with us. And then also when we start having all the pieces on site and actually are able to cut through the bricks so we can figure out what it is, we'll be able to share that, have you guys come and take a look at that with us. And so that picture is the night deposit box sort of up close. And it's been sort of welded shut at some point over the years. So I think I'm not even 100% sure the box itself is behind there, but either way, we want to keep that panel on the door in its location. And I've got 3D scans of the building and everything to make sure that we locate it as close as possible to where it is now. And here you can kind of see, and not the best picture, but you can somewhat see where it is in context as you could another Google Maps image. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Why don't we open it up for questions, Mr. Reimnitz?
Tell me about the reason for this door again.
Yeah.
How was stuff approved? And we're going back. What someone found or made a comment after approvals?
So when we put in that the glass retractable roof over the open area,
yeah.
The planning board was very astute to call that a structure, as was the building department. And as such, it sort of took what was two means of egress from that floor to the yard, which is open, to now being one means of egress out of the main door on Bloomfield Avenue. And so we had to find a second means of egress.
So it was approved and built, and then someone questioned the egress.
It was approved by through the planning board. We were applying for permits, which sort of caused, let's make a second means because now we only have one. Yeah.
I'm not convinced because I can't see a floor plan and see this whole issue of egress and what's causing it. I don't know. Is it impossible to come out the side of the building just to the right of it and still be a egress?
I will, let's see, is it the right set? Because I do have a floor plan to share if that becomes necessary. Jess just sent that over to. Right.
There are two doorways out from the brick building into the new garden area. Correct? Yeah. There's one. Yeah. So right around that corner, right there, there's another double door that goes into the courtyard, which is now considered a building. Yes,
So now it being a building,
Yeah, right here,
so it
right?
takes that.
right there, right.
So that being a building now doesn't, now we've taken this whole thing and said there's only one means to the public way, which is that one door to Bloomfield Avenue.
Well, this picture doesn't, in my mind, help you too much. I mean, this all has to do with where you set the face of this new structure. If you set the face of this new structure back, you could get out the side of that other building and not be going through one other building to get out. So again, I don't have.
I think on the second page, let me pull up myself. Sorry.
The page here, okay.
That's not even good for. Okay, there's an egress. Yes, O2. So that gives you sort of a full.
Wait, I'm still on the first page, right there. Okay.
Yep.
Is this where you want me to?
So,
Okay. So the door, where's the door? The door, is this the new egress here?
yeah, where says new.
Okay, so this points out exactly, you know, if you took the two, I know you're building the structure, but if you moved it to the left 3 feet, you could get out the side and not have to do this door.
So you're saying come through. So then we'd still, I mean, we'd have to modify the existing main entry to make that work. That space is like, I barely fit in there myself.
This is all new, right?
All the new stuff will be to the north of the main entry door.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand, but I'm just looking at this and I don't see why the double door and the facade can't move to the left 3 feet. And that door I see there right now, move to the right in the facade, right there. Yeah, the door
Move
going.
this door,
But
move
that
it.
would still be just the one means out of the both structures.
I have a question. Aren't there doors in the glass wall in the front of the building?
They're blocked.
I mean, they exist right now, right? They're just not being used.
Oh, there's no doors in there currently.
You
But there needs
removed,
to be doors.
those are removed, right?
Those were removed. There's seating and banquettes along there. And then there's a planter wall on the outside of that.
I would say modify the banquettes and put the doors back.
Yeah, I still don't see why. I realize why it would still be coming out of a separate building. The new egress would go out that door just above it, and the new building would be pulled back, so it's not, you're not going through the new building as egress.
Well, it's both acting together. There's still. I'm not sure I'm understanding where you're proposing the other egress.
The Maitre D station?
What you call the Maitre D station, there's a door there.
Okay, so you're saying
move that door to the right 18 inches and open it the other way and make it the egress, and then move the new structure to the left, so you're not going through the new structure, you're just going out of the existing, you're not going through the old, and you could get out that way.
So starting with the main entry, that is an existing condition from there. Anything new is sort of north of that.
Okay, can I see the elevate? Okay, well, maybe I don't understand what's there now. Can we go back to the photograph?
Oh, you want me to go back to,
There was a photograph. Yeah, right there. That's a good one.
Okay. So right, sort of where the meters line up, that door, that's the existing main door to the yard area, which is going to have, once fully completed, the glass roof and everything over it, making it act as a building. And you're saying to try to egress where that 1, 2.5, 3 foot set of planter is, which sure, an able-bodied person could egress there, but I know
there's rules for egress. It has to be a certain size. I understand
and that's
that.
my concern, that we won't have it there.
Well, again, I don't, I don't see enough detail to comment on it. I just find it hard to believe that you can't make that work. But I don't have any questions. Any other was a question?
Okay, thanks. Steve, Mr. Rooney?
This new door is going to be flush with the existing brick?
The finished brick on there will be flush with the existing brick.
And what sort of detail would you have around the opening?
There would be we're aiming for, and we're waiting for the shop drawings back from the manufacturer, or the fabricator, which from the planner, the consultant's memo, we will definitely share those with the members of the commission. But we're aiming for a 1/4 inch reveal around the door, so it can operate most likely an offset pivot hinge, so that it's so that we can get as tight as possible with the bricks. And like I said, most of the time this thing will be closed only for egressing and emergency purposes.
So you wouldn't have any means of
egressing. No, there's going to be no candle on the outside.
Except drop money in the slot and the door opens.
Make a wish. And
yeah, make a wish.
Any other questions? Mr. Rooney? No? Okay, Mr. Greenbaum?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. There's a lot of ambiguity here in the sense that it sounds to me like because you've enclosed the courtyard section, that becomes characterized as its own prop building, and so that the existing means of egress no longer is satisfactory for the other building. Is that right?
That's correct.
So by putting in this means of egress here, and again, this might have been asked, and I've been trying to follow this. Is that an emergency egress that will not be used for entry into the restaurant? It's only an emergency egress?
That is correct.
And did anyone ask, in case I missed it, did anyone ask, is the door a glass door, or is it what kind of door is it?
So it's going to be a solid metal door that we're going to take. So our goal is to meticulously cut the brick there. And one of the reasons I mentioned we're starting from the inside is because that wall is about 4 whites of brick thick. And we're going to start by testing on the back side, cutting through that whole thing, and then figuring to use the existing brick from the front of that to affix to the door, so that this will align flush with it. So it'll be almost like you just took the end goal is that we have almost like a saw cut of a 3 foot by 7 foot 1/4 inch reveal around that night deposit box, and everything else will hopefully look exactly as you see it now.
Can I ask you a question? If I'm not mistaken, isn't there an airlock in that space on the opposite side? Isn't there kind of like a space that's between the restaurant and the bar area? There's kind of like a second set of doors. Is there like an airlock
inside the restaurant? All the doors that are inside head towards the yard.
Let me just look at
because the building really covers the property lines in the front, the back, and the south. If we go out to the back, we're the rear of the existing building, we're ending up in another building. The rear of the yard, the planning board was very meticulous about making us have our retaining wall match the retaining wall of the new building going up on Church Street, so we couldn't egress out that way. We looked at where else did we?
But this is what I'm asking you is just because I've been to Faubourg, and I quite a few times, and so when I walk in the main entry, the existing main entry, if I recall correctly, I would walk in, and if I wish to enter the restaurant, at least you can enter the restaurant. You can make a left immediately when you walk in, where it says the maitre d' station. Have you changed that?
You can enter, like I was saying before, an able-bodied person could enter there, but because it is not ADA compliant, and because because when you go over there, you'll see there's that little wall that's there, the glass wall. There's the maitre d' station. that thing does not pass muster for a means of egress without.
But
And then,
unless you've changed the plan since I was last in there, and it's been a while, I recall there being like an airlock, like you walk in and you make a left and there's like a threshold and then another set of doors opening into the restaurant. Is that not there any longer?
hold on, I'm actually going through photos to see if I can.
Because
No, you go through and you make a left you go into the restaurant through
Yeah,
that door, and then the bar is on the right. When you get into the building, the old bank building.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I know there's two doors on either side of the bar. There's one right on Bloomfield Avenue where it says Maitre d' Station. I recall being able to enter the restaurant there, and you can enter on the far side of the bar. After you pass the entire length of the bar, you make a left, and you enter in, and there's Dick Grabowski standing there. And basically, you walk into that door. Those are two doors,
so
right?
there's more than one door, but all of them lead to the yard, which then puts you in this single means out of the to the public way.
Right.
So, okay, so I see. So you need a direct exit to Bloomfield Avenue from the existing restaurant space.
Like if you imagine there's a fire right at the existing main entry, there's no other way other than climbing the retaining wall in the back, or you're sort of stuck in there.
I got it. So this is so what you're trying to do, and I'm sure this is clear. This is to fulfill a requirement for safety and code to have a second means of egress from the interior space of the restaurant.
Yes.
And your solution is to place it where in the brick wall where the safe deposit box is, and it will not be an active doorway. It will only be an emergency doorway, which would potentially have like an alarm push button with push,
the panic bar.
Push, yeah. So the bottom line from our point of view is we have to look at this from the point of view how it affects the streetscape. So we have to look at effectively, now that we understand everything, it's clear, is this door in any way inappropriate form on the facade? And so what you're saying is it's going to be a metal door. It'll be very flush with the face. May I presume it'll be the same color as the brick facade?
No, David, he's saying it's going to be, it's not, the metal door is on the inside. It's being faced with brick.
And we're going to try to save the existing brick to face it with that same brick.
You're going to face the door with brick?
Yes.
Yes. Well, they're going to take down this brick.
You're going to take down the brick, and then you're going to put the brick face on the metal door.
Right.
Yes.
So effectively, it will be almost invisible. The perception is it's invisible. You're trying to make it as discreet as possible.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what they're hoping for. It's a question what the execution is going to be. But go ahead, David. Do you have another question? Because we really have to move on.
No, I didn't follow the whole idea of the brick on the face of the door. That was interesting to me. So the bottom line is that's as a means to mitigate the impact.
Yes.
And there will be a surround, but you're trying to make the surround as discreet as possible. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
But that will, again, from Bloomfield Avenue, nobody's walking into the restaurant through that door. It's only an emergency door. Okay, fair enough. That was.
Mr. Graham, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Reynolds, can you just clarify where the glass doors were previously that you blocked off recently? What is on the interior there blocking them now? Blocking that area now? Is it just a table or is it?
No, there's a sort of that COVID-made glass wall that's inside. And again, like I said, an able-bodied person could egress there, and even sort of not talking about that issue. Let's say
not there. I'm talking about down. Yeah, right there.
Down there. And then, so right now, that door was removed in 2018. They banquettes were placed along that table and the planter wall on the outside, so that there's this sort of even look of activity along the glass storefront.
So it can't be reconfigured to put those doors back in?
I mean, it would not be the preference of the owners.
Right.
You know what? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Greenbaum, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. You finish.
Yeah, I'm trying to formulate some more thoughts in my head on this, but yeah, I agree with Mr. Connolly. That's really the natural place for this to go. But if it's too difficult to reconfigure the interior, I sympathize with the owner on that. All right, I want to just think about this a little bit more. But yeah, thank you, Mr. Reynolds. That was my question for now.
Okay, so my question is then, getting back to the interior, the banquettes, how much seating would you actually lose if you reactivated that door?
So I went over and was looking at how those could be done. You'd end up losing, so there's basically 3 large banquettes, large table sets there. I think they're like 6 or 7 person tables. You'd lose 2 sets of those of the 3 that are there because of the way they size out. They're not they don't fit perfectly with the rhythm of the mullion pattern there. So we'd lose 2 of 3, and then you just have 1 by itself to the side. Or you could possibly maneuver to have 1 on the side, and because they still don't fit that way. Yeah, it's not a. Yeah, and then you'd end up with just like a lot of dead space there too. So for something that's not going to be used actively.
Okay, and then my next question is that if you were able to put this door with the panic bar on the inside, did you just testify that what is the width of that wall where the brick is?
Oh, that width is.
Did you say 4 bricks wide?
It's 3 or 4, yeah.
Well, wouldn't that be 16 inches?
It's
isn't
big.
a brick? What's that?
It's big. When we were cutting to do the opening for the garage door by the bar, there's 2 8-inch steel beams packed back to back on there.
I'm just trying to figure out if the execution is something that this could actually be done, given the width of the depth of the existing wall, and also what is the depth of that box? You wouldn't be able to save the whole thing. You would probably have to. Is there a?
No, our goal is to, if there's still a box in the wall, to remove the face panel and that round, the cover that used to lift, and fix that to the new metal door.
Okay, and because there were a couple. First, you said you were going to use the existing brick, but I think on the plans it says with brick face, which to me reads that it means a different type of brick.
And it also says to field cut and reuse the existing.
Where does it say that?
On the same.
On the right, to the right?
The end of that brick note that you were just reading.
Oh no, I was looking at sorry, I was looking at the drawing there.
Yeah, on the drawing, the end of that note.
But that's 2 different things. It says to the extent possible, utilize existing brick removed.
Our main goal is to reutilize the existing to the extent possible. One of the ways that we were thinking about extending the amount that we have was to try to slice them in half. But it'll really come down to what we're left with when we start trying to remove all of it. The goal, though, is to have it use the existing, keep as much as possible, and if we just are short 1 or 2, see if we can match it through some salvage yard. We found a few places. We had one down in North over by the White Castle Way in West Ward that salvages bricks, and we're trying our best to reuse as much as possible here.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So if there are no more questions, Janice, can we see if there's any questions from the public or any comment from the public?
I actually have one question.
Sure.
Kathleen. Have you seen an example of this kind of door someplace? Is there some place out there nearby that has an egress door with a brick face that doesn't have a light above it, which I think all egress doors have to have, that swings out into the public way like this. Do you know of any I'm not going to comment. I'm just asking, have you seen any?
No.
No. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So what I don't understand is, and I don't know code to the level that John might know, but it seems to me, I recognize that this is a second means of egress from the restaurant portion, but if there's a fire or any kind of situation and the passageway out on the outside area, that door, the main entrance as it exists today, I mean, they seem too close. Wouldn't a second means of egress have to be far enough away from the primary means of egress?
The path of travel has to be 1/3 the diagonal distance in this case. That travel distance, because that door that we keep referencing is not able for sort of able-bodied people to egress or non-able-bodied people to egress, that moves our path of travel to the next egress door. So you end up going up and around, which adds the distance to traveling. So if you look at the green line, that moves that around to the middle sets of double doors.
That's I'm just surprised that that's code, because in both cases, if there is a fire by the maitre d' station, both of those means of egress are completely, unavailable. I don't know where your alternate would be.
So
David, I think
David, I think that's a good point, but that's not what we're here to discuss. So I think what we'll do is let's just go and see if the public has any questions or comments. Janice, if you could.
The public, you're unmuted. So if anybody has any questions, now's your opportunity to ask them. I don't hear any questions.
Okay, so the public comment is closed. So why don't we go now to comments? John, would you start, please?
Let's see. I guess I just don't believe it, is that that they're going to be able to salvage the brick, cut the brick, restore this, I don't know, repoint the brick around the outside. I don't know enough about what this, I don't believe, I can see how this could turn into a real mess very quickly. So that's why I asked if there's some example of some egress door somewhere that's been done like this. It's, if you can do it, I guess I just don't believe it.
That was a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's my only comment. And the only other, I thought it was a good point to make about accessing, putting a 3-foot egress glass door in the center where the doors used to be. I have no way to, based on these plans, I don't know, I take it at face value that they probably lose some seating there. But, this is all coming from enclosing and creating this big structure in the courtyard to increase seating and available seating. So I don't know. At the moment, I'm not convinced about any of this.
Steve,
Okay.
do you have any comments?
The way that the door works, if it's like an offset articulated hinge, I think you can do that as a fire door. I believe the Port Authority does it on the front of their building, but I just watch out for that.
The problem is with that, Steve, is you lose opening width. Yes, it articulates, but it articulates like 6 inches in from the edge. You know what I mean?
Well, no, it can go right up against the side if you have the articulation arm. It brings the door all the way back to the jamb.
Okay.
So Steve, are you in agreement with what they're proposing? What is your?
I'm just concerned about how they're going to try to I think it's doable and I think it'll work. The final detail on how to keep it to look as invisible as possible on the street, that's the hard one. That's
Yeah.
Okay.
more power to them.
Mr. Greenbaum?
Personally, it seems to me that it might be best served to explore a means of egress out the back. I mean, I know there's
The back's another building.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
Sorry, the back's another building.
Well, there's a
That's
new
going to be
building.
that's a building there. That's the new building that's going to be on the parking lot.
I'm
There's
very
no
well,
egress.
but there's no means of, because there's a grade variation as well, if I'm not mistaken, between the,
It's, you have to get people out of the main building is the problem.
right. All right, well, it just seemed to me, and then the other question is there any way where the wine room is on that side, there's a building, I guess that's contiguous, that wall is completely, that's a shared wall, is that right?
Yeah, so is it the Investors Bank space, or?
Yeah.
That's to the south. There's another building behind the bulk of this building, and then there's the new building going behind the yard.
Right.
So and then again, there's the other restaurant to the north. So our only real opportunity is along that Bloomfield Avenue facade.
So David, could you articulate, are you in favor of what they're proposing or as what
Look,
they're proposing now?
I understand what they're doing, and from the point of view, they don't want to lose the seating capacity, and they've
Right.
created a whole facade and elevation from Bloomfield Avenue that has worked for them, and the circulation pattern. So in order to meet this compliance, they would prefer not to disrupt what they have, which has been successful. So I can understand and respect their desire to do this. I think the bottom line is that it's our responsibility to make sure, assuming everything is completely kosher from a code point of view, is to make sure that it's done in a way that's the most unobtrusive and the most, visually discreet way of doing it. The way they have proposed doing it seems in concept to be a good solution. How realistic is it? And what boundaries can we have to enforce them following through to the letter of the law of what they represent? That's the challenge. If they can pull it off the way they represent, they can pull it off, and they can, and it satisfies code requirements. I can't stand in the way of it because it solves the problem and they're being respectful and considerate to the preservation of the facade. So I'd have to support it. It's just whether or not they can execute it, which is, I think, what others have already said.
Mhm.
And Mr. Graham?
Yeah, I think that sums up my position as well. I think it is a creative, interesting solution. The execution obviously is a legitimate concern. I wouldn't want to recommend taking away 2 tables, especially of that size. So yeah, I think if this can be executed the way that it's proposed, if it doesn't require the additional lighting or all those other issues that might change the facade more dramatically, I would be in favor of this solution.
Okay, thank you. And we got into a discussion. Mr. Conley, could you please go over your comments?
Sure. I think we touched on the 2 comments that I had already. If the existing brass night deposit box was going to be reinstalled in the proposed new door, I think that was already answered, and the answer was yes. And I think the HPC should be involved in any kind of mock-ups and review of shop drawings for, the brick and mortar and all of that. But I had a few other thoughts here. Some of them, I think some of them were already brought up. Is there going to be an emergency light required at this location?
Right. Mr. Reynolds?
Give me a second. Code. Residential is building. Building. Chapter. Towards access. Maps. sign. My understanding is, and I'm trying to see if I can find this quickly, is that it would only be an exit sign on the inside. Projection clear swings.
I mean, I think there would be. Usually that's the way it works, right? When, say, you had a power failure, the lights are out and the egress lights kick on, you would need one.
But that would all be on the inside.
Yeah, but the concept is you don't exit into a dark space, you know.
Right.
Just think of it from a safety point of view. So those are usually battery backup.
And yeah,
emergency lights.
So does the commission want to say if an exterior light is required, then you have to come back with a different alternative?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, because this is a certificate of appropriateness. So I'm not fully convinced that they're going to be able to pull off the, using the old brick and making it blend seamlessly within in the wall. But other people brought up other issues. I mean, David brought up that it's too close, or somebody brought up that it's too close to the other exit onto the sidewalk.
So this hasn't been reviewed by the building department then, I guess.
Well, we can't get to there without getting through you guys.
No, it's because this is a certificate of appropriateness because of the facade, because it's in the central business town center historic district. So we have to discuss whether the proposed changes to that facade are go along with what the character of the historic district and the bank itself. And my worry is that if you're never going to match the brick if you can't use the old brick. I'm just worried about the execution of it. And I would think that I would like to see maybe you go back and revisit using the two doors that are already there in the facade, the two glass doors with the baquettes in front of it. I was there. I thought there were only two baquettes there. Maybe.
I believe it's 3, and I believe they don't line up well to cut out one. Let me go back to see if I can pull up the 2018?
So maybe rather than vote on this tonight, maybe what the question is that Mr. Reynolds can find out whether there needs to be an exterior light on this facade, the addition, and maybe have you looked into any examples, or was that just a question tonight that was posed?
So for the first one, as I read, and it's section 1008 of means of egress illumination, as I read that section of the code, it's the interior side only that will require lighting, not the exterior. And then for the finding the separate one, I think Mr. Connolly's comments sort of having you guys involved in the mocking up, the construction of it sort of, and we intend to include you guys, this one I would like to see happen very meticulously as well. I think we said we will send you guys both the shot drawings, have you on site once we start cutting through this thing, so we can try to get ahead of any issues. I think and I understand we're rather concerned about the execution, but I don't want to be afraid of execution for the process of getting this to happen. I think this is a very interesting creative solution that to prove to someone else it's a possibility.
Yeah, I'm all for that, except once you start, it's sort of done with. So there's no going back. So I appreciate it, but okay, I don't have anything else to say really myself.
Well, this is Ira. It's not quite that simple. I think the point is that you've been presented a plan by a licensed architect. And if the commission decides to approve a certificate of appropriateness, you're approving it for what you see in the plans. if there's no light there and he wants a light, he's gonna have to come back to this board, or else he won't be, he'll get a stop work order. In other words, you have to take the code issues pretty much on their face and let those play out. But if you feel that the plan that you're given is not consistent with the historic characters, you said, it's not a matter of being, I think David used the word unobtrusive or visually nondescript or something. That's not the standard. The standard is, I think, expressed by the chair correctly. So essentially, it's not a matter of waiting to find out if there's a light or not. It's a matter of, is the application, is it complete, obviously, in terms of what's given to you, and you apply the standards. I mean, I do think going into the code area is, and I don't like to usually get in the middle of this, but I think going into the code area is not an appropriate approach under the historic preservation statute.
So, Mr. Conley, just to ask
you,
you.
I'm sorry. This is advice. You don't have to agree with me, but that's.
No, thank you, Ira. It's important. Yes, thank you.
Ira, though, I mean, the code does. So if we say yes, give you a certificate of appropriateness, and then you find out you have to do X, Y, Z, does it come back to us after they start cutting through the? This is sort of happening also because they've decided that, they're building over here now. Now they discover they have to do this. It's what would be the process then, Ira?
Well, the site conditions issue is one thing. If you cut into a wall and you can't do what you intended to do, but when they present their plans to construction code and they say, hey, you got to have a light here. When the construction official says you have to have a light, and it's not on the plan that you approved, and in my view, it has to come back here.
Ira, by that logic, their last application should come back then, because there's a code issue, which is this egress door.
That's basically how we ended up here.
Right,
That's why they're here, isn't it?
Yeah, but their whole last application to construct that building should come back because there is a code issue now. By your logic, right?
This is after the fact.
Yeah, but that was not a condition of that approval, Tom. So what happened was there was a site plan that was granted. The site plan identified this issue. It didn't have to go back to there was no condition that it go back to the HPC prior. Essentially what they're doing is they then had to address the egress issue, which is why we're here tonight. They didn't have to go back to the HPC to address the former building because that was not a condition.
So may I just ask Mr. Conley, what they're proposing to do, which is to recreate a door using the existing brick facade, is that keeping with the Secretary of Interior standards?
I would say yes, because new openings are put into historic buildings all the time under adaptive reuse.
But they're identified from the outside as openings.
But it looks.
This is not.
But I think there are other options here which would kind of negate what I just said. I mean, it seems to be there are other architectural, right? To put a door where a door used to be makes a lot of sense.
What you're saying is this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate than to cut a new opening because
there's no risk to the historic integrity of the building by reintroducing this historic door as compared to the risk of this newly constructed door in the brick facade being executed poorly.
Right.
Exactly. Right.
I have a thought I'd like to share. What if they need a second penetration as a means of egress? What if they made a very attractive entrance, which actively served as an actual entrance for the building. It's not meant to be discrete. It's not meant to be hidden, but it's actually another glass door with a, let's say, a projected cantilevered kind of marquee over it. Not marquee, but like let's say an awning over it. And they made it an active entrance that was
In that location. In that location.
In that same location. Now, all of a sudden, the question is that appropriate or not appropriate? We can decide. More than likely, we would say yes. And the reality is now they have a second means of egress and they have a second entrance, so that the two spaces are actually visually, they become almost independent spaces, even though that they're integrated. And so on that basis, instead of playing the game of hiding the door, why not open it up and make it into they get the benefit of not having to open up the center space and lose that circulation and the number of seats. And now they have another main entrance that's visually appealing. And
well, yes, and David, we have approved that before in the past, most recently on South Fullerton on the bank building. That idea that it becomes a true door. However, here what they're trying to do is save the bank deposit, the night deposit box, in the original location.
Maybe move the bank deposit box over to the other side, closer to the investor's bank, and then put an entrance there. And you've basically mitigated a lot of the problems. How that affects their internal circulation programming, that's up to them to figure out. But I don't think at this particular point, the solution that they proposed is just a concept. We can't approve just a concept. We could say, come back to us with, what the door surround is going to look like and the viability, a sample of the metal door with the brick face on it, so we could make an intelligent decision. On that basis, I could say that, we would adjourn and have them come back on that concept. If they were going to, same thing here. I don't think we're right now, it is premature. It is not right for us to make a final decision. It's just a concept they're throwing at us. That
right.
We can't ensure the viability at this time. And
right.
I would feel better knowing that the township already approved it from a code point of view, just from the point of view that we're not going to waste our time pursuing something that might not be even viable. So I just think it's not ripe. That's all.
Okay, and because I also think that what was given to us without anyway, so tonight what we have to decide, because they've come to us for a certificate of appropriateness. We've heard Mr. Conley's remarks. Everyone has had a chance to discuss it. We opened it up to the public. We have to vote on, now we have to come to a vote whether or not the plan will be approved as it's been presented. And keep in mind that we have to look at this picture now and think whether or not the execution they will be able to pull this off, which they don't know. So I think we've had enough, we've had a lot of discussion. I don't think we can have any more discussion, but we do have to vote on this as it is presented. And
Chair,
whether or not they
can I just
Sure.
clarify a point you just made? Do we have to decide the viability or simply the appropriateness? Because I don't know, as to Mr. Greenbaum's point, I don't know that we're able to necessarily determine the viability.
You're right.
Ira, can you weigh in, please?
I'm sorry, could you, I was just reading something. Could you ask the question again?
Sorry, the question was, just to clarify, is our task here simply to approve the appropriateness, or is it also the appropriateness plus the viability? My understanding is the viability question is not necessarily the purview of this commission. It's
that's correct. It's just the appropriateness, applying the standards of historic review. You're not, I mean, it would be perfectly all right for somebody to come in here and ask you to approve an appropriate plan, a plan for appropriateness, even before they've engineered it. Maybe they don't want to go hire engineers until they know that the Historic Preservation Commission likes or is willing to accept an idea. So it doesn't, although David would, or someone would be more comfortable if the code issues were resolved first. There's no requirement for that. And in fact, that's not really your role. Your role is to deal with the historic standards.
And what we've been presented with tonight.
Yes, and if what you have isn't enough for you to make that decision, for some reason, because the materials aren't fully described, right, then of course you can say, well, I want, we want more information. But other than that, you have to work with what you're given.
And in my mind, the other information would be if this could be executed in the way that they're saying it.
But that's their problem, not you. I know, I understand you don't want to waste your time, but it's been presented to you, and you have to make a ruling or a decision based upon what's been presented to you. If they're unable to execute it, then they won't be able to build it. People
Would
do
the conversation with the contractor help? I believe he's on the Zoom.
What's that?
Well, I don't believe that's part of the board's mission, but commission's mission, but I've just told you my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have one comment on the drawing which is on the drawing, it looks like the door is off center of the pier. Is the door meant to be centered, and is the bank deposit box supposed to be centered on the door?
It does look off-centered. It is supposed to be centered in the space, and the night deposit box will be where the night deposit box is currently.
Which is centered on that space, right?
So that's
it's centered on the overall brick pier, right?
I believe. Let's double check.
There might be some structural reasons why the door is not centered in the drawing.
It could be interior use too.
That hole inside that area is empty, which is one of the other reasons we were so excited about using that. Yeah, so that door is going to be slightly to the left of where it's drawn. It will be centered.
Okay, as long as we keep, I would just say that would be a condition if I was going to vote for this, that to confirm everything's centered.
Can I ask the applicant a question?
Sure.
Did you consider the possibility of making this actually, as opposed to an emergency egress, a functioning circulating entrance?
We did not consider that because they like the way the entrances work currently. But I can bring it back to the owners and see if that's interesting to them.
I would like to throw out an idea just to share with you. If you can give me back the Google Maps drawing, the Google Street View.
So what?
Wait,
okay.
Let me finish my point, and then I'll. Okay. Here's an idea, a solution. Okay. You put an entrance where where you presently have proposed, but make that an actual active use entrance or glass of some form. And then, if I'm not mistaken, based on your floor plan, you have a wine cellar on the left side of the on that pier,
Yep.
right? What if you had a symmetrical matching door on the left side as on the right side, both of them being glass, the left one having a view into the wine cellar, as a storefront window, and the right side being glass, but maybe it's glass over it's not translucent. Maybe it's over a door, but visually it matches. Now you've created a symmetry. It's visually, very attractive. It's a very symmetrical facade right now. You've maintained the symmetry. You now have your emergency facade. You could either do it as an emergency or a fully circulating facade. You now balanced it on the left-hand side with a matching penetration, which actually could be an attractive thing because you're promoting the wine cellar.
Okay, thank you, David. But we're not. We have to vote. We have to concentrate on what they've presented. So as it's been presented, Ira, correct? We have to vote on this tonight, and if it comes back as a negative, maybe they'll present us with different plans. But we cannot redesign the facade. We have to look at what they've presented. So Ira, correct me, we have to vote on this as it's been presented, correct?
Yeah, except with any modifications or agreements that have been made during the course of the hearing.
Yes, but we're not here to redesign.
No, of course not.
Right.
No, only every other application we do, but this one we don't. I get it. So
No,
we're trying to be helpful. We're trying to be helpful. We're trying to help find solutions. There's nothing wrong with us making suggestions. It's a
Okay,
way
is there a
to,
motion?
Excuse me, David.
we just made suggestions to the application.
Yes,
on-
David, thank
on-
you.
on the
Thank you for
corner
your
of-
suggestions.
No, I want to finish. We just made suggestions at great length to the project on Depot Square. How is that any different?
Because that was a referral, not a C of A.
Okay, well, my personal.
This is a
feeling-
certificate of appropriateness that we have the power. This is where the HPC actually votes on something. So we vote on what has been presented tonight. If we vote no, then they come back with a different plan, and maybe it'll be your plan. But that's what we're doing tonight.
Okay.
So we're going to have to call a vote.
You need a motion, right?
Motion I'm sorry, you're right. We need a motion for someone to make a motion to accept this as presented. There can be, what do you call this?
Conditions.
Conditions with it. But does someone want to make a motion to?
What are the conditions?
Mine would say, this is what I heard. If an additional light is required, goes back to the HPC for consideration, and that the door needs to be centered on that column.
Okay.
And Tom Connolly's report, what was in his report, the details.
Right, which is the.
Okay, I move that we vote on this with those conditions.
I second.
Okay, so it's motion by Mr. Reimnitz and a second by Mr. Graham. Right.
Yes.
Did you call the roll call, a roll on these now?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Rooney,
Yes.
Mr. Greenbaum,
No, premature.
Mr. Reimnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
and Chair Bennett.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. It's approved.
And so the conditions will be what, those three conditions that you just, okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Oh, thank you all. I was quite a spirited conversation.
Okay, our next is an application for total demolition of a historic structure. HPC application 2021-48 at 13 Wheeler Street, Pathar Design. And the proposed demolition of this historic resource being reviewed according to the standards set forth in 347-137A and 347-142D. Standards set forth in 36 FR 64 entitled Criteria for Evaluation as promulgated by the U.S. Secretary of Interior, which is adopted and incorporated by reference in Article XX 23, Historic Preservation of the Zoning Ordinance. And as you know, we have just, we approved a new demolition ordinance, I believe it was last year. So I'm going to ask Ira to give us a synopsis of what the demolition, what the ordinance rather, the new demolition ordinance says and what our role is in this. So Ira, you're on.
your role is to recommend to the zoning officer or the officer who is, yeah, I think it's the administrative officer here, whether or not we should issue a permit for the demolition. And the board's decision is mandatory. So if you decide that you're not going to give a permit, they won't give a permit. It's not advisory. So the ordinance that was drafted, and I'm sure you've all had it and looked at it, and we discussed it at the time. I mean, there are basically two kinds of criteria. One of the various criteria relating to the historic nature of the structure, and, its history, its architectural features, et cetera, all the things that you typically look at, facade, to determine the historic value of a property. And then there are several pieces that involve the actual condition of the property in the ordinance. And I'll read those because a lot of times people will argue, and you have a couple of other applications that aren't being heard tonight, but I know that the argument is that the properties can't be preserved. I don't know exactly what the argument's going to be tonight, but we'll hear it. But there is structural soundness and integrity of the building structure, threat to public health and safety as a result of deterioration and disrepair, technological feasibility of structural rehabilitation. Now, in my view, if those, and this is purely advisory to you, if those are the basis, those types of things are the basis on which the applicant is seeking to demolish the property, I feel like that despite the commission's expertise and general knowledge, we would want to have an engineering report to back up that type of argument. I mean, that type of decision, if that's the basis for it. So I think you should hear what the evidence is and the application is, and then apply the standards in our ordinance, and our ordinance expands out to include the federal guidelines and things that were mentioned at the beginning by the chair. So if anybody has any questions about this, please, general questions about the law itself.
And before we begin, I hope that everybody had an opportunity to read Mr. Conley's report, because he really goes into detail, especially on page 2, about the criteria for evaluation for demolition. I won't read the whole thing because it's the entire page, but it's worth to know that the property was constructed in 1915, and it is in part of the Wheeler Street intensive level survey conducted in 2019. And as part of the assessment in that survey, it says that buried under the application of vinyl siding and window infills at the front porch, the original building exists based on the detailing of the siding. The additions are set to the rear, and although somewhat awkwardly positioned, show the early transition of the building, as the addition based on the foundation was added before mid-20th century, but after 1933. The building would be considered a contributing resource in the historic district. And then he has about 5 other notes, contributing to the criteria for evaluation. So we've got the report from Mr. Conley. We've got their application for total demolition of an historic structure. And then we were provided pictures, which are current pictures of the structure, both interior and exterior.
So I've had,
go ahead.
Ms. Dolgan, and who's the applicant, she is here, as is her architect.
Oh, great.
Okay. So just
why don't we swear them in, and if they're
Michelle, you need to turn on your microphone. I have you that you should be able to turn your microphone on. You're a panelist. If not, Mr. Lasota, I know you have your microphone. Yeah, there you go.
How are you, Janice? Great to see you. We also have our attorney, John Vettery, on as well.
Okay, yep, I'll make John, I'm sorry, I'll make him a panelist as well.
Great, thank you so much,
Okay.
Janice.
John, you're a panelist.
Well, could the two people are going to testify, raise your right hands, please?
Absolutely.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And Ms. Dolgan it is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. Okay, you're sworn.
I think there's somebody else. Oh, no, the attorneys don't get sworn in,
Attorney
right?
is the other
The attorney-
Okay.
Where's John? Is he not?
No, John's here. John, you have to turn your microphone on. You're a panelist, John, but just if you can, there you go. I don't see it. You need to, yeah, you should be able to speak now, John.
Can you hear me, folks?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, for some reason, the video doesn't seem to be working, so you won't get to see my face. I'll try one more time. But many of you do know me. Now, it doesn't seem to be working, but anyway, you've had a long evening tonight. Good evening, board. This is John Vettery, 3 University Plaza, Suite 207, Hackensack, New Jersey. On behalf of our applicant here, Michelle Dolgan, 13 Wheeler Trust. So I just wanted to give some very brief remarks about the applicant here. The applicant has developed or in the pipeline somewhere around 20 various projects that have either been approved, in the process of being approved, and many of which have been completed. It's always her intent when she's looking at the neighborhood to either save a property and reconstruct it, as she's done in many examples, and our architect that's here tonight, Mr. Lasota, will speak to that. So we just wanted the board to understand that the application before you tonight for total demolition is not one that was taken lightly. It's not one that was just looked at, let's tear it down and start over. As you'll see by the evidence presented by Mr. Lasota, primarily, and Ms. Dolgan is here as well to speak to that, the property, this property at 13 Wheeler, as Mr. Lasota will testify to, has really nothing left to restore. And I'm going to let him testify to that. The property was looked at by both this applicant, who is very experienced in new construction and adaptive reuse and renovation, and they made these determinations, again, not very lightly. So with that said, Adam is here. He has studied this property in quite a good amount of depth. He's been through the property, and you've already sworn him in, so I'd like him to answer any questions that you have, and I'll be here listening in and here if you have any questions of me as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
John. Hey, Janice, thank you for putting up the photos that I actually took today. I was there on site, but unfortunately, some things are not showing up on the screen. There's like a whole bunch of white space that I'm seeing there, and I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Could you zoom in, zoom out real quick?
I don't know why that. Oh, there we go. Now
There we go.
now it's
There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much. So just to get a clear kind of overview, Małgosia and I, we walked through the site today, and we had walked through the outside previously, but then we really kind of took a look at it in depth. And just through my visual inspection, first I kind of want to walk the committee here, kind of what we inspected and what we looked at walking through the property. So first we'll stay with the outside. And really, unfortunately, prior to us even getting involved, a lot of the historic detailing and architectural significance of the property has been removed. And I don't think it's, I don't necessarily agree with the earlier report that was done in 2019 of the survey. We took a closer look at it. As you can see here on that upper right-hand photo, Małgosia was actually holding some of that vinyl siding and that styrofoam covering that they put over whatever the existing was, and it's completely deteriorated. It's beyond repair, and unfortunately, this spells even worse so on the existing structure itself. A lot of the existing detailing had been removed, or had been just most likely removed when they did that addition. And when they had done that addition, they also very kind of poorly, unfortunately, in terms of the craftsmanship, a lot of the windows have been replaced with just very kind of standard, typical vinyl windows. You know, they didn't even try to be even period specific when they did that addition and that remodel. And also, you're seeing on that driveway, southwestern facade, even some of the rough openings, they just kind of patched in with just some wood, you know, just some 2x4, not even like trim finished wood, and tried to paint it and make it work. Unfortunately, a lot of this structure has been haphazardly renovated and updated over the years. And on top of that too, because of the lack of, I'd say, craftsmanship and expertise in treating this building with respect, is unfortunately deteriorated to the point where we're seeing, you know, major structural issues and issues with the structural integrity of the building that I don't think it's technologically feasible, and especially economically speaking, to save this. I hate to say that. You know what I mean? I'm a full proponent of always renovating and reusing if possible and if feasible. And in this one, unfortunately, I'm not seeing that. Providing some of the photos here, I really kind of wanted to show the committee that, you know, at the front staircase, you're seeing a lot of deterioration of that existing staircase. As you're seeing with that photo that I said earlier about pulling away what was there, with that piece of styrofoam, it was only keeping the moisture against the existing structure and causing further deterioration of the existing facade and of the existing wood structure buried underneath it. What you're seeing on the southwestern facade, you're seeing that big hole next to that window of actually the portion that is older. That deterioration of the facade is so bad that you can actually see daylight through and into the interior. And of course, seeing on the rear corner, right, the rear and that driveway side view, there in that bottom middle. Thank you, Janice. Yeah, that existing two-story rear porch, an enclosed porch, that is actually structurally unsafe. I actually highly think that that is in complete disrepair and actually unsafe to the public. With it being there, I walked through inside. I actually recommended to no one to step into there because, again, I don't think it's safe whatsoever. And furthermore, again, you're seeing that same level of deterioration that we saw close up at the front, on the side and of the rear where that vinyl siding was installed. So Janice, if you can go to the next page, please, we'll kind of talk about the interior as well. And unfortunately, I have more. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I have more. Again, a lot of the interior was not renovated with any kind of care taken to the existing preservation of the structure. Unfortunately, I witnessed a lot of water damage and a lot of water infiltration, not just of the facade, but also into the major structural elements of the floor joist and the roof structure supporting the building. This is also endemic as well because of the rear addition. And instead of continuing the roof lines, they were creating geometric irregularities, which only gives water the opportunity to infiltrate. And what happens when water infiltration happens? It not only causes mold issues, but also over the course of many, many years can cause structural issues, which what I had witnessed walking through the entire structure of the roof level, and especially at the basement level. You're seeing in the bottom right photo, you're seeing actually a lot of staining and a lot of degradation of the foundation walls, and especially around the perimeter edges where a lot of the joists that are spanning left to right with no interior bearing wall condition, you're seeing deterioration and structural kind of compromises happening throughout. So I did create a report based on my observations today, and especially looking very closely at that 142 section that one of the board members had expressed. Unfortunately, we don't observe any, just going through those points A through J, point A, we didn't observe any kind of historical significance or aesthetic reference that has been left. A lot of it has been removed prior to us even, getting involved in this project. We would love, what we're trying to propose is a total demolition in order to replace it with a new structure that is also a duplex, also a 2-unit building, which this one is. Design it in a way that the front facade and the front porch would align with 11 Wheeler to the left. I'm not sure if Janice had showed Or Janice, do you have that drawing that we had showed of the architectural site plan proposing the two new structures?
You mean the application to the Board of Adjustment?
Yes. Maybe it's not, well, maybe it's not worth showing then. But we are trying to propose two new structures, one at 13 and one at 15. Oh, the property next door, which is currently vacant, to align with 11 Wheeler, which is what you're seeing in that photo right there. Actually, Janice, scroll up to that photo again.
I'm gonna go to this one. Yeah, this.
Perfect, exactly. So you're seeing there's an alignment between these two. And we respect that. And I think urbanistically, we want to maintain that relationship and also design a project that is befitting of Wheeler Street, befitting of kind of the architecture and the archetype that is common in Montclair, and also very similar to some of the other projects that we have done in and around not just Montclair, but in and around this neighborhood, you know, on Woodland Avenue, and especially a lot on Mission Street and on New Street and on Washington Street. We want to carry somewhat of a similar language and flavor in order to it be contextual within Montclair, and also to continue that same architectural language on Wheeler Street and also improve upon the streetscape and the architecture of Wheeler Street and of these two properties. And of course, infill at 15, which is currently vacant. You know, we want to infill it. We want to align things across. We are prepared to go in front of the Zoning Board of Adjustments in order to ask for those variances, because we feel it's very important that what we propose will be architecturally significant and improve improve Wheeler Street, and also make Wheeler Street an even more attractive and desirable place to live, which I'm pulling that language, you know, right from subpoint E in that 142 section E portion for total demolition. So again, we'd love to save it, but it's not, I don't think it can be saved. And there's nothing architecturally or historically significant that's been left based on all of the haphazardly renovations that have been done over the years to the structure. So that, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but based on my observation, that would be my professional opinion on that for total demolition. So thank you.
Thank you. In your application, did you include an engineering report as to the I know your testimony is all visual testimony.
Yes.
Do you have an engineer's report as to a structural engineer's report?
Is the board looking for specifically a structural engineer's report for the structural soundness?
Well, yes, because as noted in Mr. Conley's report, that it's photographic documentation and an on-site visit to the exterior is unclear if there are structural issues and whether all conditions are simply related to deteriorated finishes. I mean, undoubtedly, what you've testified is, you know, the interior is in rough shape, the exterior is in rough shape, but whether or not any part of this building, specifically the footprint, the foundation, and anything else underneath that siding that you held up.
Well, based on, you know, I am a licensed architect, and based on my, you know, by visiting the site, I noticed significant sagging of all the floor joists, you know, and unevenness in the floor throughout. I'm also seeing a lot of issues of that water infiltration happening and causing structural damages to the exterior structure as well. So, you know, based on my professional opinion and based on me being a licensed architect, I find that it is structurally unsound. It needs, and again, I noticed cracking, deterioration, water infiltration, also cracking in the foundations as well. Again, I don't see this being structurally sound.
Okay, thank you.
In my professional opinion, yeah, and I have a report written. Unfortunately, I hadn't shared it with the committee yet, but I have a written report that mirrors what my testimony was tonight.
Okay, thank you. Does the owner want to speak to the project? Is she there?
Well, I'd let the attorney sort of manage
Yeah, no, I'm okay, Janice. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So is that concludes your testimony then?
That concludes my testimony, yes.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
we only have the architect on this evening, but he is open for questions. And if you do have questions, the applicant, she is here to answer questions as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we'll open it up to the commission now for to ask questions of the architect or the owner. Why don't we start with John?
This would be a question, I guess, for Kathleen. Just if they're looking for variances, they're going to have to come back to us as a referral from the Board of Adjustment. Is that correct? And anything they
That's correct.
propose.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, that's my only question. I don't have any other questions.
But we're here, John, now tonight.
I understand. I don't have any questions.
No, but
Okay.
that's Madam Chair, that's a legitimate concern because since the concern is that the property, you know, fits into the historic district,
That's my point. That's my point.
Right. When something, if this was torn down, what's going to be built here is going to have to come before this board.
Right.
As long as their variance is necessary. And it has to go to the Board of Adjustment. So this board will have an opportunity, this commission will have an opportunity to weigh in on the historic features of whatever's being built. That's, I think, John's point, and that is the case.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Karasik. The applicant understands that, and it would be very eager to hear comments with respect to the applications. We get lots of comments from Mr. Fleischer that we listen to, and we include in these plans to make improvements. So thank you.
Mr. Rooney, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I have none, no.
Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I have a question. With the intention, if the demolition was to go forward, would the foundation, the stone foundation and the stone, any of the foundation remain as part of the new structure?
No, they would not be. We are proposing a different footprint. In addition to that, a lot of that existing foundation has been also haphazardly repaired and patched, especially in reference to, you know, the areas towards the front of the original structure. I see a lot of poorly repacking and repointing of some of that existing foundation and replacement of some of the rubble with actually modern concrete lintel pieces. So again, I don't see the reuse of a lot of the foundation also.
That ends my question.
Okay, Mr. Graham?
Yeah, it seemed that was one of the few elements noted in Mr. Conley's report as having been historically significant. And if the project will come before us again to have some input, I don't think I have questions at this time.
Okay. So my question is, this is a total demolition. Total demolition, Ira, that goes down right to the foundation? Everything gets completely wiped off and it's a new slate?
So, well, yes, I mean, basically they will, I mean, it looks like their intention, they can testify to it, but I assume their intention is to remove everything on the site, clean up what's the cellar hole and whatnot, and then grade it and do whatever, and put in whatever they're going to build there. So yes, that's.
And then would an engineer report that if we request a structural engineering report that to whether or not the foundation was sound, to utilize that on that part of the existing structure?
Well, not to testify for them, but they have testified, the architects testified that they have a different footprint and they don't intend to use the foundation as it is. So that's not their objective. I should also say that
Apologies, but I think I don't mean to speak for your chair, but I think one of the points that could this be a conditional approval, like based on the idea that the foundation is not salvageable? But if it is salvageable, we would want it within that footprint and use it using the current foundation as is.
Then you would have to justify the historic value of what's left and the fact that it overrides whatever the owner intends to do. I mean, the answer is under certain circumstances, I think you could take that approach. Frankly, I don't think this is the circumstance for that approach. I also was going to say that although an engineering report is certainly, another piece of evidence, the architects do have the authority, and their license allows them to testify as to the structural integrity of properties. This is legitimate architectural testimony, so to speak, I think.
Ira, since they're coming back, I mean, to this board, because they already have a pending application before the Board of Adjustment, if the board was willing to grant them this demolition permit, couldn't they put a condition on that the applicant, if the foundation, and it is identified as the most historic element of this property, say that, all efforts should be used to maintain the foundation or a part of the foundation in the design, and that would be considered when it comes back to the board for their site plan review.
Well, this is kind of new ground for us because this is a new ordinance, but I would ask the applicant or the applicant's architect to comment on that.
Mr. Karasek, it's John Vettery. If I could just weigh in for a moment, having reviewed the ordinance, I know that it's a new ordinance, and it is the intention of the applicant to have a brand new foundation for the site. But I don't see any reason why, and I'm conferring by text with her, why we couldn't try to utilize, it's really I call it field stone. The back foundation, I think our architect has testified to as there's no historic value to that. I think it's some sort of concrete, but I recognize the stone in the front, and perhaps that or stone like that's not uncommon to be recreated. Maybe that's something that could be integrated into the new plan. It's our professional's testimony tonight that the foundation is cracked. We have floorboards cracked, that it is not usable, and that's his testimony. I think it's legitimate that we rely on his testimony with his license in the state of New Jersey. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't use something like that or try to use that stone to the extent it's able to be salvaged during the demolition process.
Well, then I would say that Janice, the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. So then, Janice, if there are no more further questions from the commission, Janice, can you see if there are any questions or comments from the public, please?
Okay.
I have a question.
Who's that?
It's
David, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe in Tom's report, he mentions that the owner had the intention of demolishing the building when they purchased the building. Is that correct, Tom?
That's what I stated, yes. That was my take on all the documentation that I reviewed.
So
it's pretty much been stated tonight.
You're saying that you have firm belief that there was an intention to demolish as part of the purchasing, the initial plan at the time of purchase.
That was my view in reading their documentation, yes.
Okay. Does that in any way influence perhaps a legitimate effort to preserve the building? I mean, on the premise.
David, the commission has to go on evidence in front of it. If if there's evidence that is sufficient for the commission to determine that the building should be demolished, or that the conditions are such in the building that it can't be preserved and whatever, regardless of whatever intent that the owner may have had when they bought it, The owner is here now and is presenting evidence about condition, and you apply the standards. And one of the standards is not what was the owner's intention. I don't believe that would not be an appropriate standard to measure the application.
I just thought it was interesting that that was in Tom's report, and I just wasn't quite sure how that figures in to our process. So
We're happy to answer Mr. Greenbaum's question. The applicant was the contract purchaser on the home, had a standard due diligence period, reviewed the property during due diligence, had no idea it was in a historic district, frankly, looked at it and made the determination based on her own construction expertise, having built over probably 100 homes in New Jersey, that the home wasn't suitable for rebuilding. We found out about this process through the filing of an application with the Board of Adjustment, and that's when we got Mr. Lasota involved to take a look at this and put his license on the line and look at the structure and make the determinations and testify as he has tonight.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so Janice, do we have anybody online that wants to comment or ask a question?
Okay, public, I have unmuted you. So if anybody has any questions, this is the opportunity to ask. I don't hear any questions.
Okay, thank you, Janice. So public comment is, point is closed. Mr. Conley, we're going to throw it to you. Could you please enlighten us as to what your thoughts are on this project?
Just to cut to the end of my report, I stated that the owner should consider restoration of the front, which is the original part of the house, and the new design should be sympathetic, demolish that back section, and the new design should be sympathetic to the existing structure. And using the architect's wording that, reconstructing a building that's befitting of the neighborhood, there's nothing more befitting than the original structure. The building should not use the same language as the buildings on either side of it. What makes this building unique is the building itself, the architectural style, the foundation. This is a Greek revival style, so maybe if they do demolish it, a condition should be maybe that the new building should be done in a similar style. And with the same siding. Its location to the street, it's a unique building in the neighborhood. I really remember this building from when we surveyed the two districts, and this one did stand out because of the front section, the original section.
Any other comments then? I know you also say that restoration of the front original core of the house and any new design, including sympathetic addition, in order to help preserve the historic streetscape. I think that's very succinct. Okay, thank you, Mr. Conley. So we'll open it up for discussion among the commissioners. Mr. Reimnitz?
Okay, I think based on everything I see, and I certainly wouldn't want to be building on this foundation as it is if I was building a new building or a new house, or I don't have a problem with demolition, with the conditions that perhaps Tom outlined, which is that what's proposed is sympathetic to what's there now in terms of scale, style, exterior finish. And I think the lawyer has a good point, a good idea, which is to salvage whatever field stone that they could, and at least in terms of the front facade, reuse it. Probably can't reuse all of it, but that indeed, if that's what is of any historic, about it really, that it get reused. That's my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Rooney?
I agree with John in that whatever replaces it, and yeah, I have no problems with it being demolished, but whatever replaces it should reflect the style of this particular building and scale. The foundation, it's very hard to tell about. I see rubble and I see block, and I like the rubble, but that's a personal preference. But other than that, I don't have any problems with it being demolished.
Thank you. Mr. Greenbaum?
Am I muted? I can't tell. Hold on.
No, you're fine.
Okay. I think the ultimate condition of replacement in kind, in terms of height, basic composition, correspondence to adjacent properties, wood, materials of the period, meaning wood clapboard, not synthetic. Those types of things would certainly mitigate the loss of the property from a demolition point of view. So I guess we have to look at this as the streetscape rather than just the individual building, and the retention of the continuity of the streetscape rather than just this particular structure's long-term integrity. I think the demolition is plausible under conditions of architectural integrity to the existing, style of the streetscape, and as much as you can to resemble the facade as it is today.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Graham?
I agree with my colleagues. I think, the goal was to avoid a situation where demolition would result in some of the modern buildings that were built, I think, up the block, a few houses down. If the house maintains a similar look and structure to the way it is now, I'm okay with the demolition. And I would like to include the conditions, though, that Mr. Viteri had discussed about reusing the foundation if possible. But overall, I do support their right to demo this building.
Okay, thank you. And I have to say that I'm in agreement with my colleagues and with Mr. Conley's report. So I guess I should ask for a motion. Ira, is this how we do it? Ask for a motion to support the demolition as presented with certain conditions?
Yeah,
Well,
let's read the conditions first.
Right.
Let me just say this before you read them. Basically, what you're doing is approving a demolition permit for demolition. You're approving a demolition of the property.
Right.
The notion, and I appreciate the conditions, and I appreciate the testimony of the applicant and the architect as to what is coming down the road. But once you approve the permit, and it's fine, I don't think, since this is new ground, once you approve the permit, the building is going to come down. And then it's up to the Board of Adjustment really to enforce the conditions. And with your input, which they'll have.
Yeah.
That application. Just make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, that's clear.
Well, that would be the conditions would be with the approval of demolition. We won't wait until.
I appreciate that, but they're demolishing the building before they're building the new one.
Right.
So that's just how it works, and I don't see any other way it will work. So.
Are you saying that we can't have conditions? We can't stipulate.
No, I'm saying that I'm saying you can have conditions, but it's going to be up to the Board of Adjustment. Address those conditions, which is
it's going to come back to us anyway. So
I don't have a problem with that. I just wanted you to understand.
I think the Board of Adjustment's usually pretty sympathetic to the position of the Historic Preservation Commission. In this case, I think that they, in my experience.
Yeah, I would think if they, the whole discussion of this as a historic building and how long we discussed it in our meeting, I think they would get the sense that, that they would pay attention to our comments and hopefully, I don't
Well,
know.
I wasn't
But
throwing
you're
cold
right.
water
Once
on
it's
the
demolished,
decision.
it's demolished, right? Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to throw cold water on the decision. I just wanted you to make sure you understood
Yeah,
the process.
yeah.
It's
May I
just a new process, but I think it's the appropriate way to move. So
If I may I ask two questions, please?
Yes.
Ira, this is for Ira, but for all of us to kind of give serious consideration to. This is, if I'm not mistaken, since the demolition clause went into effect, our ordinance, is it correct to say this will be the first demolition since the ordinance went into place?
well, it's not the first application, but it would be the first building a demolition permit that was approved by this commission. Yes.
So based on that, Ira, don't you think that we have to be very careful about how we couch this and frame this and support the basis for the demolition so we don't set up a dangerous precedent? Don't you think it's very important how we characterize our decision process?
Well, the
In order
answer
for
is
the-
it's always important, the commission's resolution. But basically, what you're doing is you're going to apply the standards and as I've heard the testimony and heard the comments, you're going to apply the standards to the evidence and say, these standards have been met. Consequently, we approve the permit. I mean, that's basically what the resolution will look like.
So basically on the basis of structural unsoundness, is that the basic
Well,
premise?
that's up to the commission, but that's what I heard.
Right. So Ira, the only thing I would say is I think it would be very helpful for you to help us make sure, as you've just started to make sure that we leave ourselves in a position that we don't open up Pandora's box for future applications for demolition where people could point to this particular application and in some way or another find justification.
Well,
So you've already.
It doesn't have precedential value, but it will show people how the commission goes about its business. So of course it should be, written carefully, and I'll take a look at it before it goes out, if that'll help.
And then may I ask you another question? Is it possible that is it safe to say that any new application to construct any new structure on this site would have to come to us anyway, right? It's a guarantee.
No, I mean, that's not exactly true. It would have to be, it would only come here if I see, because it's in the historic district.
Yeah,
Is it
but if there was-
proposed-
But I think in order to
It's
come
not.
for demolition review, it would have to require a variant. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me step back. No, it has to require a variance.
Right.
In other words, it has for it to come here to the Historic Preservation Commission, it has to require a variance and go either, in this case, would be to the Board of Adjustment, and then it would come here on recommendation. Doesn't come to the commission to the Historic Preservation Commission on its own.
So, but generally, isn't there any application in
There would
a
be no application. It would be a building permit.
building permit? Doesn't that then trigger?
No, because this is not a historic district. It's a proposed historic district. It's not an actual historic district. Not designated.
Can we make a condition in
No.
our demolition that any
No.
future?
The procedures of when an application has to go before a particular land use board is really governed by municipal land use law. And that's one thing you can't fiddle with.
What you could do, and I'm looking ahead, David, is if you do have an application in the future where you do not, where you don't have factual information that they would come back for you, you could ask them as part of the demolition permit to present what they propose to build. as part of your review. So while it can't come back to you, you can make that part of your review process, I anticipate. But that's not the issue before you tonight with this application, because they already have a filed application before the Board of Adjustment.
So wait, so I heard two different things. You're saying that we could ask them to make it as a condition of demolition to see what.
No, I'm saying it could be part of your review of the demolition permit. You could say, okay, we've heard what you had to say about the demolition, but can you also provide us what you're proposing to build? If they can say yes or they can say no.
And then we could technically withhold the demolition approval contingent upon our acceptance of, we could make that as a condition of our acceptance of the demolition.
It's not a condition, it would be part of the process.
Part of the process.
I'm not sure that's the case, but we don't have to make that decision tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, don't we have to make that decision tonight? If we say yes to the demolition, it's over.
No, it's coming back to you. They already have they've already filed the application with the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which would automatically come to you for review anyway.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I understood all the parameters here.
Yep.
Okay, so before I ask for a motion, if we look at item G that Tom has written, which I think covers, except for the foundation fieldstone, what he wrote is that this house at, 13 Wheeler Street, retains its integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association, and is a good example of its type. And its value is found in how this property fits within the overall context of the Wheeler Street Potential Historic District. We could also put in that it's a good example of Gothic Revival style. That's what we're looking for in terms of what a condition of the building that will be built on this.
I think what you can do in terms of the condition for the resolution would be exactly what Tom has in the end of his report, is that the owner should consider restoration of the front and original core of the house and any new design, including a sympathetic addition, in order to help preserve the historic streetscape. And number two, that the historic fieldstone foundation materials shall be reused, either maintained or reused as part of the new foundation. Those are two things. Now, if you want to go beyond that, in terms of conditions, I think that's what I heard.
I think those are two very good conditions. What about, I don't know if the roof line, the gable roof, the height and the gable roof as being, the basic form of the front facade being preserved, even if it's a new building, preserving the basic the basic facade features, the projection on the first floor, the sloped roof, the center, symmetrical gable roof, and
I think we can emphasize in that condition, say the owner should consider restoration of the front original core of the house and any new design, including the existing gable roof, so it's identified.
Okay, good. I like that.
Janice, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that in the report, Tom does state that it is a Greek revival, not Gothic revival. Just wanted to.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, but those two architectural styles are very different. I just want to
you're
make
absolutely
sure.
right. Okay, sorry.
No,
Okay, so now we have the condition. Now, will someone make a motion to accept this application for demolition with the conditions as outlined by Janice?
Motion.
Second.
Was that Mr. Graham?
Yes.
And who seconded it?
Right.
John.
Okay.
Mr. Ryman, okay.
All right, I'll get the roll call. Mr. Rooney,
Yes.
Mr. Greenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Reinitz,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
and Chair Bennett.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for, and good luck with this project.
Thanks, commissioners.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, so here we go.
Two more.
Okay, thank you, Janice. So next up is a referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2754, 18 Warfield Street. It's a bulk variance for a new addition. And I'll just find my notes. Okay, the subject property is existing circa 1935, 2.5 story Dutch colonial revival home. The property was individually surveyed as part of Preservation Montclair. That is why it's coming to us tonight for recommendations for the zoning board. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing south wing and screen porch to allow for construction of a new 2-story addition. An existing bay window is proposed to be removed on the east elevation and a new double hung window installed at the first floor. And in our application, we have a planning report, and we have Tom's report, and we have plans too. So there, and Janice has them up on the screen now. So who's here to speak for this application?
Ms. Rombo, I made you a panelist, so if you turn on your speaker, your microphone, you should be heard. Yep.
Miss,
Right. There, Courtney, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
all right, can I swear you in, please?
Sure.
you-
Can you also
would you-
let my client Bart in?
Excuse me?
My client Bart would also like to talk.
Bart Hacking, okay.
Bart Hacking.
Well, who, are you an attorney? I can't remember, Courtney.
I'm an architect.
Architect, okay, that's what I thought, so yeah. I'll swear. Could you raise your right hand, please, and whoever else is going to testify, solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission, truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, and that's Courtney, Rombo, and anyone else?
Yeah, Bart, I think you got to take yourself off.
Sorry, I was on mute. Good evening, this is Bart Hacking. Yes, I do.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we've got the plans up. Could you please walk us through what you intend, propose to do for this application, for this house?
Yeah, sure. Would you mind zooming in on view 1 at the top of the page in the middle? All right, you'll see here that this is a picture from the street, Warfield. It's a very unusual property on an unusual house on an unusual property. It's sideways, so when you approach the house, you see the garage first. And it's an L-shaped property with this beautiful backyard on the part of the L that's against Highland Ave. The family, Bart's family, has grown out of this house and needs another bedroom for his family and wants to do a kitchen remodel. When they first hired me, originally planned on rebuilding this garage part, which would not have required a Board of Adjustment meeting or HPC because it's within the setbacks. But we decided it would be more respectful to the house if we tucked it back in the corner where you can't really see it. So you'll see here that on the left of view 1 is the little screen porch you can see in the distance from the road. And then on the right-hand side is a little sketch of the kitchen addition that you would see. And if you pan down, next picture, view 2. You'll see that if you walk up the road towards Highland Ave, there's a little bit of the second story addition that you'll see, but it's still not very easy to see from the street. And if you go down This is from standing on Highland, where you're about 140 feet away from the house. You will see, if you look through the trees over the fence, the two-story addition that is a little taller than the existing screen porch and roof over the office. And if you want to go to the second page, I can walk you through the plan. Or if you want to walk through the site plan, it's kind of a complicated site, so we might want to do that.
You want the site plan here?
Yeah, let's do the site plan.
Okay.
So we went back and forth with the zoning department on what were the side yards and what were the front yards. And we finally landed that the side yards were what I have noted in yellow here, and the rear yard is in green. So we would be encroaching into the rear yard, which I believe is about 33 feet from the southern property line. Okay, we can go to the next page. On the top, you'll see the existing plan. On the bottom is the proposed plan. So we're not going any further out from the existing footprint. We're adding to the footprint, but we're not jetting out from the existing footprint any more than it's already there. So this is the kitchen on the first floor plan. And then above, they're going to be adding another bedroom on top of this kitchen. They would like to. And I think that's an exhibit I have. Don't mind pulling that up, the second floor plan.
You want, it's a separate exhibit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull up. Exhibit A, which one?
Let's do exhibit A, please. Okay, so you'll see on the top is the existing plan where they have a small closet space with very steep sloped ceilings. And we propose that's going to be demoed, and they'll be able to add a master suite on top of their kitchen addition to get one more bedroom, so they have enough bedrooms for their kids and themselves. And could you please open exhibit B?
Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, let me bring that over here.
This is a rendering of what the two-story addition would look like next to the existing house.
Let's see, I'm trying to see if I can make it bigger. I'm not quite sure how to make it bigger.
You do Control Plus, that might make it bigger.
Control Plus. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
So we plan on carrying the existing siding into the new addition, and the whole new addition will be the same siding. The windows of the existing house are very old and will probably be replaced with some wooden windows, maybe from Marvin, and the new windows will match the existing windows. And I know Bart has a few things he would like to say.
Thank you, Courtney. Good evening. I know it's been a long evening, so I'll be very, very brief. Courtney, you hit all of the important points. If I may, I just want to maybe emphasize a couple. One, which was when we met with Courtney, we met with other architects. Actually, every architect that we met with and came through the home, we were kind of struck with this initial comment where everyone just kind of turned their head sideways and then turned to us and said, "Have you ever thought of moving the kitchen to the inner portion of the property?" To which, in the beginning, we said that sounded audacious and was hard to wrap our head around. But eventually, actually, it became maybe almost obvious to us that that's how the house, given the unique orientation of the house and its orientation in relation to its unique land that it sits upon, that moving these inner core you know, core components of our family and home, which is around, you know, around dining and cooking, and putting that in this sort of inner core at the property, and also, you know, again, sort of reorienting the home to the land as it sat, became sort of this obvious, we kind of couldn't get out of our head, and that sort of made sense. And as Courtney noted, we were initially contemplating, this is a very big project. We were contemplating what was a relatively smaller project, which was, you know, to expand the kitchen, because that's where this all began. How do we expand the kitchen and make this home a home we can live in for decades to come? In a home that, frankly, also is infrastructurally is challenged. It needs investment. And so, you know, we contemplated, as she noted, the garage, the two-story garage, possibly demolishing it, making it up to 10 feet wider. And we just, how it would present to the street, we just were uncomfortable with. And so the combination of those aspects of moving these core components of the home into the core part of the land itself, and sort of connecting the home to the land, what is a unique set of land, made a lot of sense to us. And also we felt it was negligible to no visual impact to from the home from Warfield, because of, you know, existing footprint, effectively existing profile. So I just want to add those for what it's worth. This is a new process to me. So I just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you. Does that conclude your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to open it up to the commissioners now to ask questions. Mr. Reimnitz, do you have any questions?
Is there a reason why the second floor windows don't line up running across the facade?
The kitchen ceiling is 1 foot higher, and you step up into the second floor master suite. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that explains it. Is there? Yeah, no, I'll keep everything else as that's my only question. So I'm done with questions.
Okay, thanks. Steve?
I had the same comment about the level of the second floor. So it's actually 2 different levels?
That's correct. You step up into the second level so we could get a 9-foot ceiling in the kitchen.
Right. Okay. That was my only question.
Mr. Greenbaum?
I have no question.
Mr. Graham?
I generally leave these kinds of questions to my more learned colleagues on the panel, but I know in some projects, in order to distinguish the new section of the home from the old section, there'll be some slight setback for the addition, maybe, you know, so to distinguish it from where the original house, it looks flush right now. Was that considered?
I would consider that. I think it's not sure how the roof would work, but are you thinking bringing it forward or back?
Back a little bit. I've seen that done with other additions that have come through on the, you know, through our committee. And so, yeah, so I thought I would point that out, but I generally leave more of the more experienced colleagues to have the aesthetic conversations. Thank you. That's my only question.
And I was, yes, I was going to bring that same point up, but I'm wondering about the roof line here. Why it's a double gabled, an intersecting gable here? It seems like a very complicated roof line for a
master suite.
Well, no, for just the whole addition.
It was to get up more ceiling height.
Oh, so you mean it's open to the?
Yeah,
to this, it's all open on the top.
yeah, it's vaulted.
Okay. And what does it look like from the other side? Oh, I guess we don't really have to consider that because you can't see that from the street. I'm just wondering what it looks like from the other side. And do you have another rendering like this from Warfield Street where you see the?
We have that one I showed at the way beginning. You can
Yeah.
barely see it, but it's
I
not a,
don't see it.
go back to the front page.
Yeah,
Go to
you
view
only
one.
see part of it.
Yeah, zoom way into the
Where is it?
picture on the right.
There on the right.
That's what you'll see.
Yeah, you can barely see it.
Okay, and then in your application, where is the bay window that you're removing?
It's on the east side of the house. There's, you can't see it from the street. I don't think I have a picture of it because it's kind of hard to even get a picture because it's like so close to the
Okay, no,
fence.
that was, I couldn't figure out from. All right, those are my questions. Any other questions, commissioners, or we'll open it up to the public?
Yeah.
No? Okay, Janice, could you see if there's any public that wants to comment on this?
Okay, public, you're unmuted. Any questions? Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Janice. So the public comment section is closed. Mr. Conley, can you please tell us, explain your remarks?
Sure. I'd just like to state that this house is not in a historic district. Is that correct?
That's
Right,
correct.
This
It's part
house
of-
was, yep, it was individually surveyed as part of Preservation Montclair because it is such a great example of a Dutch colonial revival home. If we go to my second comment, which I'll read that one. It says the existing house has a clearly defined main structure and smaller wings that work in harmony with the primary massing of the house. And the applicant should consider redesigning the proposed addition, which I view as being inappropriate. Any new addition should be subordinate to the existing house and should not compete in size and scale to the main structure. The other comment I had was, it seems to me that there were a lot of not accurately reflected conditions on the plans and elevations. They, a big part of this Dutch colonial is its brownstone first floor, which is not shown on the elevations, which may help, we'll make those elevations read differently. And the site plan and the first floor plan don't seem to jive. If you look at where you place the addition on the site plan and where you show it on your first floor plan, the rear walls are flush on your first floor, but they seem to be recessed on the site plan where you're showing the new addition. And if we stay right where we are there, on the garage side, I'm having a hard time believing that the plane of the gable wall of the main block doesn't align all the way through to the rear yard or the side yard number 2. Is it true that the masonry on the ground floor that's a longer facade than it is on the front?
I was using a,
Right
Site
there,
plan
if you
that
you
was
look at the
sent?
pictures, right, that's just the main block is a gable end, and that's from the gable all the way to the ground, one plane, but you show it with this offset there.
yeah, we could look at the floor plan and see.
And then that nothing is changing on the rear facade, but in actuality, they're removing the bay window and putting in a new window. There are a lot of inconsistencies with the drawings.
I think it would be very helpful is to submit a survey with the application. We did not receive a survey, and I think I noted that in my report that it would be very important to recognize the existing conditions.
Yeah, there's something not right with these drawings.
Yeah, we have a survey that we can submit.
But where's the addition going? Is it gonna be flush with the rear wall, or is it gonna be set back?
So the reason it's showing like that is because it's bumped out on the second story. And the site plan I was working off of probably showed it bumped
But
out.
let's go to your first floor plan, right? You show those walls aligned, right? In the
Yeah,
rear,
so it's aligned on the first floor, but it's on the
but that's
second
not what it
floor.
shows on the, yeah, all right.
If that's what the first floor is, Courtney, then your site plan has to show that.
Yeah, I'll correct that.
Because I think your site plan shows where the air conditioner condensers are gonna be in this area, but they can't be tucked in. They're gonna have to be, if this is plus. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think what's happening is that the site plan I was using originally, the old one, was showing. I'll fix it, but I understand what you're saying. But I think it's the second story was bumped out, and that's what I have been showing on the site plan, but I should be showing the footprint.
Okay.
Those were really my only comments, were the inconsistencies in the drawings and the actual addition. I think is inappropriate for this.
Can I ask you a question?
Example of a Dutch colonial. Yes.
If we were to redesign it, would you find it appropriate if we did lower ceilings on both levels, or would you feel like we could not do the second story addition at all?
You could probably make it work with the larger floors. It all has to do, I think, with the massing and
Let's wait
the
for
fenestration.
And do you mind if I ask you design advice, or is that not appropriate?
That's not appropriate.
Would you be open to like a shed roof coming down, like from the north to the south? Because that was one idea I had, but I thought this would look better than that.
Chairman Bennett, are we finished with questions? Did we finish our questions?
Yes, why don't we go ahead? We're finished with the questions now, and we'll start with discussion. So, John, why don't you start?
I think the lower part of this addition looks great with the existing house. The problem I have is what Graham began to suggest, which was somehow you disassociate the addition from the original, say, historic house or more historic house, and that maybe you treat, you want some design suggestion here, is maybe you treat, instead of that facade being a gable there, maybe it's a dormer in a roof, so you read the roof and the dormer instead. And I think that would fit in, in my mind, fit in visually a little bit better. So
Yeah, I like that idea. A gable dormer or a shed dormer? What are you thinking?
well, let's see what they have there. There's some little gable dormers on the garage. Yeah, I mean, you could do a gable dormer. That'd be okay. You're trying to get height in there, right? So you're trying to get that peak inside the master bedroom. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so maybe a smaller version of what I've
What
done.
you see there, just so it reads more like a dormer instead of a gable. I think it's that all that stuff in the same plane in this shape that doesn't come from other places in the house makes it look a little off. But
yeah, I like that.
Those are my comments.
Thank you, John. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, you there?
I'm here. I think if you lowered the building a little bit and you make it line up a little bit more, that would just, that's how I feel. Since this isn't truly the front, but it is the front, but you're a million miles away from the street, somehow you do have to make a differentiation between old and new. And I don't quite know how you're gonna do that. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Greenbaum?
So I concur with John Reimetz's very good, valuable design suggestions and propositions of alternate solutions, which I think is very helpful for the client and for their architect. I think the idea of using dormers in particular versus the double gable roof is a good suggestion. So I would support what John has suggested.
Yeah.
And go forward on that basis.
Okay, and Mr. Graham?
Yeah, agreed. And I would just say subordinating the new portion of the house to the main house. You know, I think my colleagues on the panel came up with some very good suggestions, and I agree with them.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I agree. I brought up the idea of what I viewed as a problem with that gable roof. So I think subordinating the addition by lowering the interior height a bit, and also bumping it out or bringing it back so the entire front is in one plane, and including the survey needs to go with this application when you present it to the zoning board. So
Does that mean this will come back to us prior to going to the zoning board, or does this mean we're going to make these suggestions and it's up to the zoning board?
Right. This is a zoning board application. You will send your recommendations to the zoning board for consideration. Doesn't come back to you.
So Janice, those are the three conditions?
Well, I don't know if there's conditions.
I'm not conditions, recommendations.
The recommendations are to lower the second story needs to be separated from the rest of the house. I'm trying to remember. Essentially, it's the dormer windows instead of the dormer roof instead of the gable roof on the second floor. To separate the addition from the plane of the existing house, to help differentiate it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are what I'm reading here.
Right, and then to include a survey with
that's a given. That's
okay.
But can I ask you a question, Janice? Could we make it? I'm not saying I would propose this. I'm not saying that this is going to be voted upon, but couldn't we make it a condition that the recommendations that are put forth require a return to our commission prior to us giving approval or supporting it with the HPC?
You don't give approval. You have
not approval. I'm not saying approval.
They don't have to come back to you.
But I'm asking a question. I know traditionally we would make recommendations, and the HPC and or the planning board, whoever has jurisdiction, would ultimately take into account what we suggest and either at their discretion require it, etc. But I'm saying if the HPC said that we would request prior to it going back to the Board of Adjustment or the planning board, that it comes back to us to show the suggestions and input made by the HPC, couldn't that be done?
No, it can't, because it has to go to the zoning board first, and the zoning board has to take action. Okay, now you can ask the zoning board to make it a condition of their approval that it comes back to you for some final review.
That's fair.
You can't make it go to you back to you before it goes to the zoning board.
Fair enough. So the bottom line is we can make a condition that it goes when it goes back to.
We can request
it, but
you can't.
But the people on the planning, I think it's fair to say that the people oftentimes on the Board of Adjustment are not really equipped to see if the design suggestions that were made were actively, and I'm not saying it would be done in bad faith or good faith, just bottom line is they're not equipped oftentimes to see that these suggestions are taken into place, taken into account. So
They have the authority, David. They have the authority. So bottom line is we can request it and we can suggest that they don't have the expertise, but we can't require it.
So if you want in my report or in your report to the zoning board, we'll simply include a request that the board have them come back to the HPC for final review of the details. Okay?
And yes, and it also could come back.
That sounds good.
That sounds good.
And I usually send that to the revisions committee, not the full board.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
exactly,
good to go to the revisions
that's
committee.
what I was going to say. Could it go to the revisions committee? That's exactly what I was going to say.
We do this often. Yes. Okay, so we'll request that it come back to the revisions committee.
And
Okay.
a representative of the HPC could certainly be attending at that meeting as well to clarify.
Well, David, we do that often, but it's hard to get people to volunteer to be there. So both John and I have done that a number of times.
Well, in certain cases, it's urgent to do it. In some cases, it's.
Are you going to volunteer for this one?
No, that's not the issue. Will you stop doing that? I'm trying to make sure, because procedurally, we're going through a process and going through and noodling this and trying to help come up with a great solution, but we're sending it out into entropy, into a place where there's no one there to really make sure any of this is done.
David,
hold on. I know legally that we don't have the authority, but I do think that in order to get the best possible outcome, which I think is what we're trying to accomplish here, okay, and this is not just specific to this application, we want to make sure that the work that we put into it actually adds up to something of value.
And I think we will, but the best we can do is put the recommendation in the report that it comes back to you. And so I think we'll do that. And I think we need to move on to this final application.
We have it's 4 minutes to 11. We have the last application. Thank you, Courtney, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your recommendations.
Thank you, committee. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Appreciate your input. Some great ideas.
Sure. Okay, next is a referral from Board of Adjustment, application 2759, 560 Valley Road, the Bank of America. This is a bulk variance of signage requirements for installation of new wall-mounted business sign. We are reviewing this because this is in the Upper Montclair Business District, Upper Montclair Historic District, sorry. And we have, who do we have here to speak for the application?
All right, Miss, I just made everybody a panelist. It's amazing. Okay, I know that Miss Mundra, Seema Mundra, are you going to be handling this on behalf of the applicant? I've made you a panelist.
Janice, Tom Letizia, attorney, is here.
Okay.
Can you make me a panelist, please?
You are a panelist.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I'll put out my video, see if it works.
So it's Tom Letizia, and who is going to be presenting with you?
If you can bring in Joy Shimizu, as well as Mark Krakilski for now. Do you see them?
Yep, Kuchilski, yep, they are panelists as well.
Okay, let me swear them in. I guess I didn't quite catch your names for the two people who were just brought in. Could you raise your right hands, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission is truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? And
yes,
I heard one yes, and then
yes,
maybe you're muted, the other person.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
now I do.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
So thank you. Good evening. I know it's late, commission members. We'll try to be very quick here. Just a few remarks on background. I represent Bank of America National Association. This application is before the zoning board for 2 new business signs at the bank branch located at 506 Valley Road within Montclair. As noted by the chair, it is within the Upper Montclair Historic District. However, the building is, as I understand, a non-contributing building to the district. The bank is in the process of rebranding its branches throughout New Jersey, including this branch in Montclair. The signs that are before you tonight are part of a broader signage package for this building, along with some refreshing of the building, which is going to be part of a separate application that doesn't require any zoning board review, but because it's in the district, of course, this board will see that. But for tonight, we're just focusing on 2 new business signs. And again, it matches the new branding for the bank that it's implementing throughout all its branches. Hopefully you'll agree that it's sensitive and compatible with the district. So we have some extra visuals. Maybe we can just work from that, and then we'll be available for questions. So Mark, I believe if you give him rights, he
No,
can.
I can't share the screen.
Oh, all right. Well,
That's why everything has to be submitted to me in advance, and that's what I have here, unless Mr. Krochilski, unless you want to email it to me.
There was some color stuff I saw there, some renderings. Where's that?
Yeah, what I have is everything that was submitted.
Okay. I didn't get anything in my package, so.
Yeah, my apologies, Janice. We weren't aware that we had to provide the exhibits to you in advance.
It's the same thing with the zoning board.
Right.
We don't share the screen.
Okay. Well, that's, everyone's different. We understand. Mark, can you forward an email to Janice?
Yeah, Janice, what's your email address?
It's J Talley, JTALLEY at montclairnjusa.org.
Can you scan down to the next sheet, Janice?
Well, it's one sheet, but I have.
Oh, that's it? There's just one sheet. There, that right there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's what we got.
I didn't see this.
I think what this is this is the existing.
Yes, that's correct. These are photos of the existing signage. The areas of the building that are subject of the current application would be the northwest portion of the building. And
so
then,
are you talking about the
Elevation
one top?
Elevation C.
Elevation C. Yeah.
Oh.
No, okay, well, this is really, you're replacing.
Can you zoom in on that, Janice?
Yeah. This is where you're replacing the 2 signs that were permitted with 1.
That's correct. But
a little bit lower.
And this is new.
The one on the right that's right. That's the second business sign that we're seeking a variance for. Currently, there is no signage in that entrance. As soon as you receive the visuals from Mark.
There you go.
Okay, excellent. So again, these are photographs of the existing building. The top one is from Valley Road, looking on the north end of the building. The sign, that's one of the signs that's part of this current application. Actually, you can't even see. It's on the canopy
This one?
behind the tower there. That's facing parking lot. That constitutes a second business sign, which requires a variance, but it's barely visible from the public way, as you can see. The other sign that requires a variance is on the southeast facade, which today does not have any signage. The bank is proposing a wall sign on that tower basically at the same level that's going to be on the north tower. That's replacing the two existing signs. Merrill Lynch is no longer in the space. It's now going to be all Bank of America, so there's no need to have the Merrill Lynch signs on the building. Janice, if you want to move to the next slide. Okay, this is a rendering of the north end of the building as we're envisioning after all the refreshing of the building occurs.
Are you eliminating this sign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that building is, that sign is going, the sign facing the road is going to be replaced with the new branding. You can see the new sign up on the tower. It's replacing the two. It's going to be actually smaller in size than the two signs. It doesn't require any new approvals. And then again, you can barely see the new sign on the canopy in the back there. So again, that's the subject of one of the signs for tonight. And then I think on the next slide, the next rendering, this is a depiction of the new Bank of America sign on the south tower. And then maybe Joy, quickly, if you can just go through some of the sort of details of this signage.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I think if you can go down one more slide, one more, and then we'll go back to this one after we're done. I guess not. Go down one more. I'm looking for, there we go. You can blow that up a little bit. So this is sign number 2. This is the sign that we're proposing. This door leads to a common building lobby. An ATM machine provides access to an elevator, the second floor, and is also an after-hours entrance. Therefore, the bank is requesting a sign on the overhang over this door, which accesses the parking lot. The sign's functional nature, giving the customer more readily access and ability to determine which door to enter when entering from the parking lot. As Tom mentioned, a variance is required because this is the second sign that is on this elevation. They are halo-lit letters, which are required by code. The Bank of American letters are 6 1/4 inches high. They are 080 aluminum dimensional letters, backlit with LED lighting, 6500 white. The shield is 12 5/16 inches high, and the I'm sorry, I don't have the overall length of it. These letters are mounted, they are again backlit, and they're mounted to a pan that is going to be painted white and mounted on the overhang. Bank of America has a new logo, and that's why we're changing out the signs. It's a slightly different font. And its national branding consisting of PMS 186 red, white, and PMS 280 blue. And the red and blue coloring gets installed when it is installed on a light background. And this branding is the same at all Bank of America branches, all over the nation. And then if you can go down one more slide. We're going to move to the South Tower sign. And basically, this sign is white. As you can see, we opt for white letters when it's going on a dark background. And let's see. The letters are 52.61 square feet. The letters are 14 inches high. The shield is 27.5 inches high. And the width of the letters is 22 feet, 11.5 inches long. The bank is requesting letters on this elevation just for better visibility when you're approaching north on Bailey Road. And, there's some limited visibility due to some of the exterior trees out there. And that's it.
And this is not lit, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, they are non-illuminated letters. Thank you, Tom.
And that's essentially it, Madam Chair. So
Okay, well,
questions.
Thank you for that testimony. Why don't we open it up for questions from the commissioners? John, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney, are you mute? Are you there? All right, we'll come back. Mr. Greenbaum? Mr. Greenbaum? Mr. Graham?
Just a quick question. It looked like, are you refurbishing the cement portion of the building also? It looked like it was cleaned up in some of the renderings.
Yeah, we're looking into that, Mr. Graham, and we're likely to be proposing a plan in that regard for the HPC's consideration. Yes. As you can see, it needs some cleaning up.
Oh, without question. Yeah, I live not too far from there, and I would like to see it. But yeah, it seemed that one of the signs, not to drag this on too long, but one of the signs appeared to be contemplating that it would be refurbished and brighter. I think it was the front sign that has the white background. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's in contemplation of cleaning it up.
Yeah. So what you see here is again the vision. That.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rooney or Mr. Greenbaum, did you come back? Any questions?
No questions for me.
Okay, I have a question on the, I just want to make sure you're requesting a variance for the wall sign above the entrance at the northwest corner of the building, and that is for an internally illuminated sign. Not that one, the other one, right?
The one,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Actually, no, that was my mistake. I don't believe that's internally illuminated. I believe that the details presented were that it's a halo sign.
Right.
That's correct.
My report is incorrect.
Oh, okay, because that was the one thing that jumped out at me. Okay. So there are no internally illuminated signs on these, on this new project. Okay.
Correct.
All right, then I don't have any questions. Is there anybody, any further questions? Anyone from the public, Janice, that would like to comment?
Public, you are unmuted. If anybody has a question or comment, now's your opportunity.
Okay, so public comment part is closed. Up for discussion, Mr. Reimnitz?
I don't have a problem with any of this. It's fine.
And Mr. Rooney?
The back entrance, which never had a sign, now wants a sign. I was wondering if it could be also achieved by just vinyl letters on the glass instead of a sign.
Looking for the.
Not you know, on the parking lot.
I know, I'm just looking for, For the, is this it? That's existing conditions.
Actually, that sign, I'm sorry, the one that's facing directly in the back, that's also going to be removed. No longer going to have that one.
This is the one.
That's
new.
the one that's proposed now, correct?
Right.
What's being removed?
The one on,
Sign.
I guess it's
The drive-up canopy.
What is the west side?
The one here.
Oh, yeah, the one that said Merrill Lynch.
Merrill Lynch is being removed, and there's also a Bank of America that's being removed on the rear. Believe that's the west elevation. It faces a train tracks. I think
yes.
that's it.
Yep.
That's coming down as well.
Okay.
And that's why we want visibility on that, over that door, so that people coming in from the parking lot know where they're coming from, since that other sign's going to be removed.
Yeah.
And that also leads to the second floor. And again, Bank of America is going to have offices on the second floor.
Mr. Greenbaum, any discussion?
No, actually, I think it's fine. It's tasteful, and I have no issue.
Mr. Graham?
I don't have any issues.
Nor do I. I think it'll be, as long as the facade is cleaned up. Tom, did you write a report for this? I can't seem to find it in my notes.
I did. The only real thing I had was on the detail for the signs that are being installed into the brick. The anchors should be installed into the mortar joints and not into the face of the brick, like it's shown in the detail.
Okay.
Agreed. Okay.
And the other thing, just I believe the applicant stated that this building was listed as a non-contributing resource in the historic district.
Yes, I think I saw that in Ms. Tower's report.
Right. But I have page 15 of the Upper Montclair Historic District nomination report, and block 1711, lot 26 is listed as harmonizing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we have.
That was probably my mistake.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that it is. It's not,
I'm probably wrong.
This is a nice building.
It is.
Yes.
It's a
The only question I have a question on these renderings. You're showing all the concrete. Is it being painted or you just cleaned up?
We haven't decided yet.
It actually says in the drawings that it's going to be power washed.
Yeah, at a minimum, it's going to be power washed. We're looking at possibly some type of surface treatment of it. We have retained a concrete restoration specialist to look at it and give us recommendations.
Don't paint it.
And I have just one other comment. Looking at this facade here that is on Valley Road, because we looked at this a few years back, I believe. Wasn't there some trees in the front, a cherry tree that?
There was a cherry tree. They took it out.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. All right, so I mean, I think everybody's in agreement that this looks fine, and as long as the facade gets cleaned up, I think it'll be a good asset.
Thank you. We agree. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Okay, so being that we have no certificates and resolutions, it is now 11:18. We'll see you next month, and may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone.
See you guys later.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.